Right. So today we are going to do a very quick revision on your programming subject. It's not a revision, actually, just a very quick exam preparation. Okay. Right. So I'm not going to do a lot of past paper questions. I'm just going to do a quick overview, actually. Right. So let's start it. Right. So remember, so the subject programming. So the main objective is you understand the programming concepts. The secondary objective is you familiar with Java. So therefore, main thing is programming. The secondary thing is Java. Right. So when it comes to programming. So programming is solving a problem, right? Writing a set of instructions to achieve our objectives through the computer. So programming is giving instructions. We are giving instructions to computer. So in order to give instruction to computer, we need a language. So we can't use human language because they are too fussy. So remember, there are generations of languages, the low level language and high level languages. So the first generation and second generations are low level, third generation, fourth generation and fifth, etc. are high level. What is the difference between low level and high level? In low level languages, we have to refer to the computer architecture. We write the code knowing the architecture. So this is machine code or binary code, 1-0 level. So this refers to the registry numbers, memory addresses, the operation codes, etc. It's no translator is needed, but it's very complicated. Then came the second generation, the assembly code, right? Add, load, etc. Still you are referring to registry numbers, memory addresses, etc. But a little bit easier than this. So then came third generation, the high level. So where the first one is formula translator, Fortran, and then Pascal, C, C++, Java, etc. So when you're writing Java code, when you're writing Python code, you do not refer to memory addresses and any other thing. You just work with the logical level, like int, x, blah, blah, blah. The 4GL is where you don't even write the logic. Here you at least write the logic. Here you just say what to do. Declarative languages, what to do, just like telling something to a human. Select all from employee, insert into, say, department, blah, blah, blah. So there you don't even say what to do, how to do as a logic, you just say what to do. Okay. So when it comes to 3GL, because Java is a 3GL language and mostly we are using 3GL still. Okay. So there are two ways you can translate. Here no translation is needed. Here we have two type of, here we have the assembler. Here we need a translator again. What are those two type of translators? The interpreter and compiler. So interpreter interpret chunk by chunk, whereas compiler compile entire thing together. So Java is doing, C is something, this category, C++. All right. Here we have JavaScript, PHP, even Python, etc. But Java is doing both. First, it compile, but not to the machine code like C++, intermediary code or the byte code, the object code. So then at the runtime, it again interpret as well. First compile to intermediary code and then interpret. So why it is doing that? To make platform independent. Now actually C# is also doing a bit of that. C#. That is why you need .NET framework to run C# applications. You need Java runtime environment or JRE or JVM to run Java program, because that interpretation is needed. But if it is C++ sort of a code or C code, you don't need any runtime environment. The operating system can run it because it's 100% compiled. Right. And also, so that is what we call platform independence. Java is sort of a very highly platform independent. It runs on any platform as long as JRE is there. C# or the .NET related languages are not 100% platform independent because the .NET framework is not compatible with all the platforms, but at least now they are compatible among different with Windows operating systems. Early days, program run on Windows XP is not running on the Windows 7 because of incompatibilities. But now, because of the .NET framework, so that is why they can upgrade your operating system to a next version without even uninstalling your program because of this .NET framework. Okay, so you have to understand these concepts properly. Right. So then, when it comes to programming, so there are two main approaches. There are multiple approaches, but the most popular right now are two main approaches. That is structured programming and object-oriented programming. Before this, during this assembly and machine language, we had something called unstructured programming as well, because at that time, there was nothing called control structures. Then we had to use a lot of go-to statements, etc. Okay. But now we have from high-level language era, we have the structured programming and object-oriented programming. So what is the main difference? So in structured programming, we think in terms of control structures, right? Control structures, right? And we solve the problem with the help of control structures. But in object-oriented programming, we think in terms of objects and related concepts like messaging, classes, and some advanced concept like inheritance, polymorphism, etc. Okay. So that is a difference between structured programming and object-oriented programming. Again, first came structured programming, and early 1990s, early 1980s, so latter part of 1980s, people start using object-oriented programming. So with the C++ language and then Java, C#, and other languages also have now start supporting object-oriented concept. So maybe about 75 to 80% of the software is developed using object-oriented concepts. Only small percentage is developed using structured, but it doesn't mean that structured is not important, because object orientation is not a replacement to structured programming. It's a high level, we look at it in object-oriented way, but when it comes to generating simple or the low level logic, we still use structured programming heavily. So therefore, though I say 80% is object oriented, so this 80% also contains a lot of structured coding. Okay, so therefore you must know how to learn program in structured way, how to learn object oriented way. Your first part is structured programming, the second part is object oriented programming, the third part is different usages like collection framework, file handling, user interface development, etc. That is how you subdivide your syllabus: the structured programming, object-oriented programming, and some advanced concepts, frameworks, etc. to support other aspects like database connectivity, thread programming, etc. So you must have a definite understanding which will increase your confidence, right? So which gives you that extra confidence that you can go anywhere and work, go anywhere and face an interview, okay? Go anywhere and live, okay? Right, so let's first look at the first part, then we'll look at the second part, and then we'll look at the third part. Okay, right. So I'm just going to show you the high level things only, just refreshing. Okay, structured programming. So in structured programming, we look at the problem solving or the programming as we have a set of data, right? Initial raw data. We want to process it into more meaningful data or process data or information. So that is how we look at structured programming. That is why in information system subject you learn information system is something that convert data into information. Okay, right. So therefore in structured programming we need a way to represent data, maybe marks, salaries, or some transaction details, etc. Data. So then we need a way to do these processing. So therefore we say that structured programming is D plus P approach, data plus process approach. We separate those two concerns. So that is why now structured programming is all about data plus process approach. So you must know how to represent data, you must know how to process data. So how to represent data in almost all the languages. So you have the simple data, and compound or composite data. So simple means just atomic data, maybe marks, maybe your age, salary, the amount. Okay, so that is simple data. Composite data means there are two types of composite data. Set of data of same type. Maybe 5 data values, but of the same type. Maybe you have 4 subjects, your marks 80, 75, 30, 90. Or maybe the temperature, average temperature of all 7 days. Right? This value, blah, blah. So same type of data, multiple values. So that is where you have arrays. Right? Arrays. So then you have not same type of data, different type of data. Different type of data. Maybe one is a string, other one is an integer, another one is a double. So in other languages, we have concept called records, but in Java, we have concept called structure. Actually, structures is also not there in Java. What we have is we have to go for object-oriented data concepts. So in object-oriented, object can be used as a, in other language, we call them record or structures, but in Java language, we can use an object as a composite data. Of course, that is why Java is built in object oriented. Even when we are doing structured programming, right? You have to there's a class you have created because we are using object oriented concepts heavily. Okay, and there are some additional supports like enumerations as well, but it's arrays and these. But there's another thing that you can use as a replacement for arrays, and bit of different type of data can also be there. That is your collection framework. That is actually supplementary to the arrays, collections. That is where you have the list, set, map, etc. Again, pretty much similar type of data, not different type of data. But again, you can use it to keep little bit different type of data as well, but not much. Okay. Right. Collections and arrays are highly related. Okay. Right. So that is data side. That is data side. Then the process side. So you have to do some processing. So that is where you have operators. Operators. So then you can apply those operators in different ways. Sequentially, selectively, or conditionally, repetitively. That is where you have the control structures. Control structures. So that doing programming with this particular thinking is called structured programming. So you must know how to represent your data in the program and how to do the processing to achieve your objective for the your information. So that is called structured programming. Okay. So then now let's get to the data part. So then we'll get to the process part. Then we'll say, okay, we are done. Structured programming is done. Of course, there are tiny things you have to understand and remember for the exam, but my task is not that. Okay, right. So when it comes to data, or the simple data, so we have a concept called simple variable, right? Variable. So there are two types of languages. One type of languages are called strongly typed languages or explicitly typed languages. Explicit. Other languages are weakly typed or implicitly typed languages. Java is a strongly typed. Java, C, C++, C#. If you take here the JavaScript, PHP, Python, those are weakly typed or implicit typed. Since Java is strongly typed, whenever we declare a variable, we have to give a data type. Say int x, right? Float salary, right? Because it's a strongly typed language. In strongly typed language, you have to give a data type, and you can have only that data type, value of that data type for implicitly castable data type, nothing else. But in something like JavaScript, you can have var x equal 10. Later you can say x equal hello, but you can't do like that in Java. Java or C++ or C#, because those are strongly typed language. Okay, right. So that is the first thing you know. Then you must know what are the data types. Right? What are the data types? So in Java, we can subdivide data types into few categories. The numbers we can subdivide into whole number and decimal. So then you have the char, sorry, let's say Boolean, char. That's all. So that is, we call them primitive types, primitive data types. Primitive can moolika, prathamika. Okay. So what are the whole types? We have byte, these are the real types, byte, short, int, and long. Under decimal, we have float and double. Then you have the Boolean and char type. So those are the primitive types. So primitive type means they are not classes. They don't provide you any other features like methods and other things to do certain things. They just represent the data. It's just like a bucket or bag. That's it. Okay, primitive types. So then you have the object or reference types. That is related to object-oriented programming, but anyway, we'll look at that one also. That is, they can keep data as well as they can provide you some additional features. So those are object types. There are built-in object types, and you can, whenever you create a class, you are creating object type, new object type. So what are the built-in types? The most popular, right? String type. It's object type. So then there are some string related other types, string buffer and string builder, object type. Then for each and every primitive type, we have wrapper types, wrapper classes, wrappers, right? For int, we have integer, right? Byte, we have byte, etc., etc. So those are some built-in object or reference types. So other than that, whenever you create a class, either you create, or if there are any other class in Java, JDK, those are also types. Those are also types. Okay. So whenever you create a class called account, it's a data type. Now you can have the account has an account number, balance. So it's a composite type. Okay. So these are not composite actually, right? These are also not composite, but they are object or reference types. But whenever you create a class, you are creating a new composite type. So that is why we don't have a separate composite type in Java other than the enumeration. Okay, because whenever you create a class, it's a new composite type and it's object or reference type. Okay, right. So when it comes to primitive, why there are so many types? So that questions you must have answers. Otherwise, you are blindly going here and there. So why there are multiple types to effectively use the memory? If you are pretty sure that you are going to use only small numbers, go for small type. Then you are not wasting your memory, runtime memory. Same here. Bigger numbers, bigger precision, double. Small numbers, smaller precision, float. And Boolean, you don't have that issue because just true and false. And char, we have only limited number of characters. So therefore, char is just one type, which support the Unicodes. Okay, so that is why you have multiple types. So when it comes to Java, this concept of data type is somewhat complicated. What is the main reason? So you must know the reason. The main reason is we have, when we say int x equal, say, let's say long x equal 10. So this is the data type of the variable. The data type of variable x is long, and this is your literal, and literal has another type data type. So the literal, this is an int literal. So this is a long variable, but we are assigning an int literal. So that is sort of a headache. That is something that Java people has done. I think, for my personal opinion, is it's a terrible thing they have done. A terrible thing they have done. So therefore, there are complications. So therefore, you have 4 variable types here, but you have only 2 primitive types. What are those 2 primitive types? Whole numbers, we have only int and long. Right? Int and long. Here there are 2 primitive types. Here just the primitive values are there, but here it's a real mess. You have only 2 primitive types, int and long. For example, if you have byte variable, you can assign an int literal. Right? So then if you have a long variable, you can assign int literal, or you can go for something like this, capital L or simple L. Okay. So you get at least 20 questions from structured programming. Right? If you look at your paper, so you have to plan out things. Right? So this is your paper. So you have all together. So last year 40 questions. Clearly, out of those 40 questions, okay. Yeah. So this is before object orientation. Right. So this is an object oriented code. At least, yeah, at least about 19 or maybe 18. This is exception handling. Yeah, at least about 17. Right? So 17 means almost half. Almost half. Almost half of your paper is only from structured programming. Structured programming. So therefore, you have to pay a lot of attention to structured programming if you want to get a good marks. Okay, අපි ඇත්ත කතා කරමු ගොඩ දාගන්න කට්ටියක් ඉන්නවනේ. වැලි ගොඩ දාන කට්ටිය. ඒගොල්ලන්ට මේක ඉතා වැදගත්. වැලි ගොඩ දාන කට්ටියට මොකද 17ක් විතර ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ මේකේ. මේකෙම වැඩේ ගොඩ දාගන්න පුළුවන් ඕන. හරි. ගොඩ දාන කට්ටියට සර්ටිෆිකේට් ගන්න බලන් ඉන්න කට්ටියක් ඉන්නේ ගොඩ දාගෙන. Right. So therefore, it's very important for you guys. Right. For others, everything is important because they want to learn the subject. Right. So therefore, you have to go into details in the structured programming area. So we have only two primitive literal types. We have only two literal types. Okay. So therefore, you can use in literal for any of these data type. Long literal we can use for, I think, int and long only. Right. So let's double check because examiner is checking those things. Examiner is checking those things. So anyway, those things are mentioned in your note as well. I'm using IntelliJ because I want to do things faster. So it's very important, even before the exam day, you use your coding, right? Coding is the main thing. Without coding, you can't learn programming. Say new Java class, let's say test. ESVM. Right. Let's say int. Of course, for int you can use long literals. No issue. Can I use for byte and short long literals? No, you can't. Right. So those are the things that they will check. Byte. Of course, byte. This is a bigger number, right? So if it is something like this, now this is byte and 10 is okay in literal. But now remember byte, what is the range? Byte has only one byte, right? One byte means it's 2's complement numbers. We discussed that in computer system subject. So therefore it is -2 to the power 7 to 2 to the power 7 minus 1. 2 to the power -2 to the power n minus 1 to 2 to the power n minus 1 minus 1. So therefore, -256 to -256 to plus 255. So you can't assign something like 2. You can assign 255. Okay, 255 is also not there. Okay, 2 to the power 7. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. Sorry, 128. Okay, sorry, yeah, 128. So -128 to plus 127 only. So if you can assign 127, right? No compiler, but not 128, not 128. So that is something you have to understand. Okay, yeah, right. So that is something you had. They check this almost every year, But if you make it at least short, that is okay because short has 2 bytes, right? And other thing is, say something like this. Now 127 is allowed and this is in literal. Can I use long? No. So long literal can be used. Now this is valid 127, but you can't use long. Can you use long for short? No. Can you use long for int? Of course, yes. For int also it's not allowed. Why is that? So I think this is new JDK. The new JDK has restricted, it looks like. Okay, so usually for int, you can have long, no, right? No. For long literal can be used only with long, sorry. Long literal can be used only with long. You can't use it with any other data type. Long and bigger type, that is float and double also you can use long. So long literal you can't use for byte, short, int, right? So long literal can be used with long, or you can use it with bigger type like float. So there you can use either int literal, or you can use long literal, or you can use float literal, 10.7f or simple f. Or for float, you can't use double literal. By default, if you say 10.7, it's a double literal. Okay. So those are the complications. I told you, they have really messed it. So when you say 10, it's an int literal. But if you want to make it long literal, you have to make it something like this or something like this. If you write 2.5, it's a double literal. If you want to go for a float literal, you have to write simple f or capital F. Okay, so the rule is int literal can be used for any data, any numeric type. Int literal. Long literal works for long and bigger types, that is float and double. Then float literal work for, float literal, float means without f. It work for float and double because double is bigger. Double literal work only for double, right? So this is double literal. Double literal, it works only for double. So those are the rules. Those are the rules. Okay, right? You must be 100% sure about that. And also, if a number is out of the range, you will get an error. For example, when you have int, you can't have 120. You can have 127, but you can't have 128 because it's outside the, if it is byte. Right? 100, now it's 127 is the biggest one. But there's another concept. If you programmatically change that, then you are not going to get any error. Right? So say print a, now there's no error because at the compile time it is not doing this programming, but now it is a garbage value. That is another thing you have to remember. Now it is not 128, it is 2's complement number become negative number. Right? Now it is minus 120. So that is another thing you have to remember. If you assign a value programmatically outside the range, it results in a garbage value and it is not going to give you any error. That is another thing you have to remember. Right? If you want to get all the marks in this first half, okay. The other thing is you can assign these whole numbers. Whole number literals can be given in denary, binary, octal, or hexadecimal. So if you just give a number, whole number, int or long, it is denary or base 10. Okay, base 10. For example, say let's take int, say 12, that is 12 in base 10. Obviously the output is 12. But if you want to make it binary, you have to go for 0. So then you can write only valid values are, binary means, 0 means octal, right? Let me open the note. I can't exactly remember this. If anyone can remember, just put it in the chat so that I don't have to look at the note. Right, 0 B or 0 capital B or 0 simple B. So that means now it is a binary number. For example, 1 1 is 3, right? 1 1 is 3. Right, 3. So if it is Octal, you have to start with 0. Then it is octal now. Right? For example, 0, 7, 1. Why it is not? Int let me close this and take back. Right. Say int a 0, 7, 1. So that is octal now. 8 to the power 0, 8 to the power 1. This is 8 into, let's say 5, 8 to the power 8 into 5 is 40, 41. So this should print 41. Right. 41. And if it is hexadecimal, you have to go for 0 simple X or 0 capital X. Then of course you can use something like A also. This is 16 into 10, 160, 161. So never go to the notebook, note and do math, programming. You are crazy. Right? Open your IDE and start learning. Right? So that is a faster way. If you go to the note and memorize your programming, you are actually me harakek. Me harakek. Kala kanni harakek. Kala kana. Men igana ganna vidiya. Karla ටක් ගාලා බැලුවා තේරුම් ගත්තා. එච්චරයි. හරි. Right. So that is something you have to remember. So you can put it in binary, octal, hexadecimal as well. The other thing is the char. So when it comes to char, you can give it in 3 ways. Either you can give the character in single quote, okay. Single quote, say A. Exam so that is one way. That is one way of writing char literal. The second way is you can give the ASCII code. If you know what is this ASCII code, ASCII code exam ASCII code ASCII code of, let's say, B, capital B. Right. So say if you just assign this and print B, it is again going to be capital B now. So that is the second way. So that is capital B. So the third approach is you can write it as a Unicode, right? There's a way to do that. You can refer to the note Unicode. Those are the 3 ways. And the other thing is when you're giving the ASCII code, again, you can give it in binary, octal, and hexadecimal. Right? Binary, octal. For example, what is the, say, cal? What is the binary value of 66? Programmer. 66. Binary value is 0 capital B. So this will print again B, it is going to print again B. Because that is a binary. And you can use octal, etc. Right? Because, right. So I hope you got the literals now. And Boolean, of course, you have the true and false only. And it must be all simple. So it can be true or false, only nothing else. Okay. Right, that's it. That's it about literals. That's it about data types. Then you need to understand one more concept when it comes to literals. Data types, variables. What is that concept? Casting. So there are 2 types of casting. Casting means converting one type to another type. Implicit casting, explicit casting. Implicit casting means you don't have to explicitly do that. It will be by default, automatically it will be cast. For example, Implicit casting is when bigger type to smaller type. Sorry, smaller type to a bigger type. This way. Implicit. Explicit is need when bigger type is cast to a smaller type because there's a risk of overflowing. So therefore you have to write it explicitly. That's all. එච්චරයි මතක තියාගන්න. මේක එක එක පාඩම් කරන්නේ නැහැ. ලොකු type එකකින් ඉඳලා පොඩි type එකකට explicit කරන්න ඕන. පොඩි type එකකින් ඉඳලා ලොකු type එකට auto වෙනවා. ඔච්චරයි. ඒකත් කරලා බලන්න. Say int a equal 10. Data type එක බලන්නේ value එක නෙමෙයි. Say long b. Now you can't just assign b equal a. Sorry, you can assign because this is smaller, this is bigger. That is implicit casting. This is implicit. Even you can do something like float c equal a because you are converting from smaller type to long bigger type. But if you do other way, say you have a long variable or you have an int variable, int d equal to 12. Maybe the size is okay, but say this is okay for byte. 12 is in the byte range, but still you can't assign like that. So you can't say e equal d because this is a smaller type. Int d is of the bigger type, therefore you have to explicitly cast and say I want to cast it to byte. I want to cast it to byte. And of course you have to make sure that it is within the valid range. If it is outside the byte range, still you can do it, but it's going to be garbage value. Right? Garbage value. Byte and there's another thing. So this work for something like decimals as well. Say I have int variable f equal. So I can even say I have a float or double variable, double f equal 10.6. Now I can't just say int g equal f because it's a bigger type, but you can cast it to int. But when you cast a decimal to a whole number, it's very important your decimal part is truncated, right? Truncate pen, yeah. Make a 10.9 nunat. Then 10 වෙනවා. round off වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Say g it's 10. Okay. And same thing, right? If you have long variable, you have to cast it to int variable, byte variable, right? Int x equal, say I have a long variable h equal 12.7 and කාට හරි කියන්න පුළුවන් long h, sorry, 12. So why this is happening? Because this is int literal. Int literal is implicitly castable to long, but now you can't say x equal h because h is a bigger type. Now you have to explicitly cast to int. So the other thing is you must know exactly where we must use long literal. Long literal ma use කරන්න වෙන එක තැනක් තියෙනවා. ඒ තමයි අනිවාර්යෙන් long literal ma use කරන්න වෙනවා. ඒ තමයි your variable is long මෙන්න මේ වගේ වුණාට පස්සේ අර errors එනවා සමහරවිට. ඇයි ඒ? Now your long variable can keep this value, but this literally is outside the int range. Right? Outside the int range. So for this kind of a situation, we must go for long literal. මේක නම් මේ long literal එකත් outside the range වෙන්නේ නැති. Right. Now this is within int range. Still int range, valid int integer. Now this is not a valid int integer, but it's a valid long range, but it is not a valid int literal. So in this kind of a situation where your value is bigger than int, but smaller than long, you must go for long literal. Okay, you must go for long literal. All the other places, if it is a whole number, int literals are also going to work. Okay, right. So that's it. Only then data type කියන කතන්දරේ ඉවරයි කියන්නේ ඉවරටම ඉවරයි. හරි ඉවරටම ඉවරයි exam එකට ගිහිල්ලා හරි so you have to go to the exam thinking that examiner is your enemy examiner is enemy මම ගිහිල්ලා flat වෙන්න ගහලා එනවා flat වෙන්න ගහලා එනවා කියන්නේ බැටුනට පස්සේ තවත් එකක් මූන්ට ගහලා එනවා මූ මැරලා නැත්නම් ආයි මූ මරලා එන්න ඕන කියලා right so එහෙම තමයි exam එකට යන්න ඕන so you must have very aggressive mindset when you go for exams හරි ගොඩ දා ගන්න ඕන හරි ඒ කාලකන්ණි mindset එකෙන් යන්න එපා හරි හරි examiner මේක නිකන් ගොඩ දා ගන්න ඒ ඇවිල්ලා කාලකන්ණි mindset එක ඔයා යන්න ඕන examiner ට flat වෙන්න ගහලා එන්න මම හරි examiner ට flat වෙන්න ගහලා එන්න මම ඒ එකක් අරන් එන්නේ A+ එකක් අරන් එන්නේ මොකද එහෙම රටවල්නේ දියුණු වෙන්නේ නේද එහෙම රටවල්නේ දියුණු වෙන්නේ හරි right so that is all about data types casting blah 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 so your next topic is arrays හරි අප කාලේ class එකේ කරේ operators තමයි නමුත් so let's do the arrays එතකොට මේ පැත්ත ඉවරයි data පැත්තනේ right so then arrays so the arrays are capable of keeping set of same type so in Java we have 1 dimension 2 dimension and you can extend to any dimension so how to create a 1 dimension array there are two ways one way is you can create like this int say if it is int array you can within curly bracket you can write the numbers 10 30 40 etc so that is one way of creating 1 dimension array easier way if you know the data and here the notation either you can use it here or you can use it here හැමදේම තරන් ඉන්න ඕන can you use it here you can use it here also ඔය තැන් තුනේම කොටු වරහන දැම්මට වැරද්දක් නැහැ ඒක මාර්ක් කරුමයක් එහෙම සාමාන්‍ය ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑමින් ලැන්ග්වේජ් කරන්නේ නැහැ නමුත් එහෙම තමයි 1989 වල 90 මුල Java දැම්මේ මෙතනට දාන්න පුළුවන් මෙතනට දාන්න පුළුවන් මෙතනට දාන්න පුළුවන් හරි right so that is the first approach the second approach is remember arrays are objects in Java arrays are objects okay so therefore you can use the object notation say b equal new int you have to give the size you have to give the size whether it's 5 or 4 or whatever here you are not supposed to give size if you give a size you are going to get errors and here you must give the size if you don't give the size you are going to get errors okay right so that is the first thing and again you can have the brackets here here or here okay or else you can do it in two steps int c කියලා declare කරලා පස්සේ object එක හදන්න පුළුවන් c equal new int say size 5 so that is you can write it in two steps as well okay but here you can't give a number here you must give a number and this is your size so size 5 means it goes from 0 to let me open my pen මේ ලොකු සබ්ජෙක්ට් නෙමෙයි තේරුම් ගත්තට පස්සේ ආ තේරුම් නැති කට්ටියට මේවා මහා හරි මහා හුටපට තේරිච්ච කට්ටියට මේවා නිකන් චූටි කෑලි හරි තේරුම් ගත්තොත් so size 5 means 0 1 2 3 4 always Java arrays are 0 base අපිට නම් දාන්න බෑ Java arrays වලට වෙන සමහර subject වල සමහර language වල වගේ always starting with 0 right and here if you try to assign something outside the range that famous error is coming that is a runtime error ඔක නිතර අහනවා නේද උදාහරණයක් විදිහට assign කරන්න ගත්තොත් c 0 that is fine but if you assign c now this is size 5 means 0 to 4 if you assign 5 or something now it is not a compiler එක compiler එකක් නෙමෙයි කියලා දැනගන්න ඕනේ හැබැයි මේක runtime error එක මොකද්ද මේ error එකට කියන නම array index out of bound exception it's a runtime exception right you can see so that और पेपर के दिगे यार ये कम बहुत ही ओक पेपर के आहारों है पेपर के हाल दिनों पे नहीं मन ये बार हाल दिनों के वेतिन ओके जी हम दया मांगे हाना लेकिन यहाँ कोड डेल लिया दिनों दिया था बार नया रेखा के सेल अंकल दिनों दिया बार ते महान के साधारण है न तरकाला कंटिक पास है ना जीवित कोड डेल लिया नहीं काला कंटिक है ජීවිතේ කෝඩ් එකක් ලියන්න කාල ගන්න ටික අපිට කියන්නේ ෆේල් වෙන්න ඕන. අපි පේපර් එකක් ඇදුවොත් මුන්ට පාස් වෙන්න දෙන්නෙම නැහැ. හරි මුන්ට පාස් වෙන්න දෙන්නෙම නැහැ. මොකද software development field එකත් කාලා BIT degree නමත් කාලා ඔක්කොම කාලා හරි කොට දා ගන්න කාල කණ්ඩි සෙට් එක. හරි අන්තිමට යුනිවර්සිටි එකේ නමත් කාලා හැම රටත් කාලා තමයි උන් නවතින්නේ. බොරුවෙන් ජීවත් වෙන්නේ උන් ටික. Right. So that is how you work with 1D arrays. Okay, 1D arrays. So if you assign a value outside, it is going to give you array index out of bound exception. If you want to find the size later, you can always use the length property, right? So you can say c dot length, so that will give you the length. It will be 5 in this case. It's not data, it is your size, right? It is your size. Amithan did array out of bound exception agreement, so I have to comment that length is 5. So that is how you work with one dimension arrays. Okay, so any questions on 1D arrays? So then you have the 2 dimension, and of course you can extend it to any dimension. And the other thing is, if you say it is int, now you can't assign any other type. If it is implicitly castable, okay, but if you need explicit casting, you can't assign, right? You can't assign. You can't say even right. So I forgot to mention another place where implicit casting is there. I put a key 2D array වලට යන්න. තව එක තැනක් තියෙනවා implicit casting වෙන. ඒ මොකද්ද? ඒක මම casting වල කිව්වා. ඒ තමයි ඔයාලට පුළුවන් char එකකට cast වෙනවා මොකද්ද? integer එකක්. say char x equal what 100 කියලා ලියන්න පුළුවන් ඇයි? So this is cast to the char using ASCII table, right? Other way around is also possible. නේද? එහෙම වෙනවද? නෑ, එහෙම වෙන්නේ නෑ නේද? For example, can I write int x equal 150? එහෙම කියන්න පුළුවන්ද? පුළුවන්. So that is එහෙම නේ. මට char එක ලියන්න. මෙහෙම ලියන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඔක්කොම possibilities බලාගෙන යන්න. මෙහෙම ලියන්න පුළුවන්. ආයෙම පුළුවන්. දැන් මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ? So what is the value of x now? ඔන්න ඕක හැමදාම අහනවා. මේ තියෙන්නේ a ගේ ASCII value එක. What is the value of ASCII value of a? මේක 66 නම් ASCII value එක 65 වෙන්න ඕනේ. So the output will be 65. On implicit casting में विशेष අවස්ථාවක් තමයි char to integer or whole number to char. That is another place where implicit casting work, right? ඒකහඳ මෙතන 30.8 දාන්න බැරි වුණාට ඔයාට ඕන නම් capital A කියලා දැම්මොත් අවුලක් නැහැ. ඒතකොට මෙතන තියෙන්නේ කීයද? මෙතන තියෙන්නේ දැන් 65. හරි 10, 65 and 40. Right. So then the 2-dimension arrays. So when it comes to 2-dimension arrays, you have rows and columns. Right? You have rows and columns. First we refer to the row, then we refer to the column. Right? It's always zero base. Always zero base. First we refer to the rows, not the column. ඒකයිලා අර බීජගණිතේ මේ වාගේ xy නෙමෙයි. අපි මේක කියන්නේ x ගේ y කියලා නේද? x ගේ y. හැබැයි මේක කියන්නේ අපි y ගේ x කියලා. So this is right. So this is 2 3. 2 3. හරි. ඔක හොඳට ඔළුවේ තියාගෙන ඉන්න ඕන. නේ? Right. So then we have to give say int 2-dimension, right? Say x equal new, again this must be the same type, and here you can give either both sides number of rows and columns, so you can just give only the number of rows. Dekin ඕන එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. So I can say something like 2 3, that means 2 rows 3 columns. Okay, 2 rows 3 columns. So then I can assign something like x, say something like this, 0 0. මොනවාද දැන් possible දේවල් ටික ටක් ගාලා බැලුවා ඉවර කරා. අත ගා ඉන්නේ නැහැ. බැලුවා කියන්නේ කරලා බලන්න යා. කරලා බලන්න. So 2 rows 3 columns, 0 1 0 1 2. So therefore yes, 0 0 is available, but you can't assign you can assign 1 2, say 10, but you can't assign something here, right? Even 1 2 is okay. 1 2, that is okay, no errors, nothing will be output. But you can't do something like 1 3, it's runtime error. It's runtime error. Array index out of bounds. Now, arrays, so like whether it's 1D or 2D or whatever, if you have not assigned a value, it will get the default value of the data type. The default value of whole numbers, int, byte, short, etc., long 0. Default value of decimal value types, float, double, are 0.0. For Boolean, it is false. For char, you have a special character. Right? So, got 0 1. Oh, 0 1 gonna buy it. Array of out of bound exception in it. නමුත් ඔයාලට එනවා මෙතන අපි මේක print කළවල තාම assign කරේ නැහැ නේ 0 1 කියලා එන්නේ බිඳුවයි කියලා එනවා 0 1 by default because int it is 0 ඒක initialize වෙනවා variables කොහෙද initialize වෙන්නේ කොහෙද initialize වෙන්නේ නැත්te කියන එක දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕන right. So that is something you have to remember. And this is 2-dimensional array. And also, if you want, you can create the 2-dimensional array without giving this number. මෙයා නොදී දෙන්න හදන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට හදලා තියෙන්නේ දැන් rows ගාන විතරයි ඔය කියලා තියෙන්නේ. rows 2යි කියලා විතරයි ඔය කියලා තියෙන්නේ. rows 2යි කියලා ඔය කියලා තියෙන්නේ. columns ගාන තාම කියලා නැහැ. columns ගාන එතකොට ඔයාලට පස්සේ වෙනම කියන්න වෙනවා එහෙම හැදුවොත්. So then you can create these odd shape arrays. ඔයාලට කියන්න පුළුවන් මෙයාගේ rows 3යි මෙයාගේ rows 4යි අන්න එහෙම කියලා හදන්න පුළුවන් මෙයා empty තිබ්බොත් මුලදී then you have to say you have to create it again x0 equal new int මම හදලා මෙයාට size එක 3 වෙච්ච එක ඊළඟ row එකට මම දානවා 4ක් එහෙම හදන්න පුළුවන් දැන් මම හැදුවේ මේ වගේ array එකක්. හරි දැන් මෙතනට data දාන්න බෑ. මෙතනට data දාන්න පුළුවන්. So for example now this is valid. Say 0 1 0 1 2 3 1 3 is valid now. But 0 3 will give you a array index out of bound exception. Okay? Right. So then of course we can create 2D arrays using that curly bracket approach. Like very lazy. It was earlier on rows not curly bracket. Say first row, second row, any number of rows you need. Okay. Say third row, comma separated. Then आगे data टिका दागने गया मैं बराबर. अब एक टाइप पे नो ना मैं किन टाइप पे करूँ implicit castable है नो. Say 10, 12, 15. अरे odd shape array साधारण पुला हाँ. Say 20. 50 say 20 then method now if you want to print this array එකම array ඉවර කරන්න ඕන හරි array ගොඩ දාලා හරියන්නේ array තමන්ගේ examiner ගහලා එන්න ඕන examiner උස්ම ගන්න බැරි වෙන්නේ ඒක තරහක් ගන්න නෙමෙයි examiner අපිට challenge එකක් දෙන්නේ නේද exam එකට එන්න කියලා examiner ඔයාලට challenge කරනවා වරින් මෙදාට exam එකට මම දෙනවා ඔබට paper එකක් කියලා. ඔයා යන්න ඕන examiner flat වෙන්න ගහලා තමයි මම එන්නේ කියලා. ඒකට examiner තරහ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. examiner සහ හරි කැමති තමන්ට flat වෙන්න වදිනවනේ. ඒ කියන්නේ දක්ෂයෙක්. So we have 0 say now we have first row second row there's a third row also. Right there's third row also now. මෙයාගේ 3 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා මෙයාගේ දෙන්නයි ඉන්නේ මෙයාගේ දෙන්නයි ඉන්නේ මෙයාගේ එක්කෙනයි ඉන්නේ so 0 1 2 so now we have 1 1 is there 1 1 is there 1 1 කීය දෙන්නේ 50 but there is no 2 1 2 0 ඉන්න හැබැයි 2 1 නැහැ 2 1 ගන්න ගියොත් දැන් array index out of bound exception because there is no 2 1 2 0 is there as you can see ඊළඟ length එක ගත්තොත් මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ අයවත් දැනගෙන ඉන්නවා x ගේ length කිව්වොත් මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ මම කරනවා කියන්නේ උපරිමයට කරලා එන්න ඕන හරි ආයි කෑලි හලාලා එන්න බෑ length කිව්වොත් එන්නේ ඔයාලට rows ගන්න columns ගාන නෙමෙයි rows ගාන. මොකද columns වල වෙන වෙන length තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. So here the row length will be we have one first row, second row, third row. Rows ගාන එන්නේ. ඒකට මේක 3යි. මේක 3යි. ඔයාලට මේ row එක length ගන්න ඕන නම් ඔයා කියන්න ඕන x0 ගේ length එක කීයද? x0 ගේ length එක කීයද? 3යි. 1 2 3යි. x1 ගේ length එක කීයද? x1 ගේ length එක 2යි. x2 ගේ length එක කීයද? 1යි. ඒ length එකෙන් එළියව තමයි out of bound යන්නේ. අන්න. දැන් ඔයා arrays ඔක්කොම ඉවරයි. Arrays ටික කතන්දර ඉවරයි. හරි? 1 dimension, 2 dimension, you can extend it to 3 dimension or whatever. So now you know everything about arrays. Right? 1 dimension or 2 dimension or whatever. Right? So then of course you must know there's array friendly for loop also. නේද? for loop වල අපිට තියෙන array friendly for loop එකක්. සාමාන්‍ය for loop එකට අමතරව දැන් අපිට let's create a simple array. Say int x equal 10, 20, 30. So there are two ways you can iterate this. One thing is the normal for loop or while loop or whatever. Int I equals 0. Say I is less than or equal to හැමදේම length එක පාවිච්චි කරන්න. එතකොට ලස්සනයි code එක. Reusable. Sorry. X dot length of course then I plus plus. Length එක දැන් මෙයා කීයද? 3යි. 3යි කියන්නේ මේක less than or sorry මේක less than or equal නෙමෙයි less than length. එතකොට 0 1 2 වලින් නවතිනවා. 2 වලින් නවතිනවා. Less than length less than 3. Now you can say out or whatever your x I. So it will print 10, 20 and 30. හරි මේ length පාවිච්චි කරාම තියෙන වටිනාකම තමයි දැන් ඔයා මෙතන වෙනස් කරා කියලා යට කෝඩ් එක වෙනස් කරන්න ඕනේ. මට open close principle එකක් කතා කරා. Your code must be open to extension, close to changes. මේකත් ඒ වගේ පොඩි කතන්දරයක්. ලස්සනයි length දැම්ම නැත්නම් මෙහි ඇවිල්ලා ආයෙ වෙනස් කරන්න ඕනේ. පොඩ්ඩක් ලියනකොට අනාගතය ගැන හිතලා ලියන්නේ. ලංකාවේ අනාගතය ගැන හිතලා ලියන්නේ. අනාගතය ගැන හිතලා රට කරන්නේ නැති කාලා ගන්න ඉන්න රටක් නෙමෙයි. එදා වේලනේ. කාගෙන් හරි කලාගෙන කාලා ඉන්නවා. එදා වේල. Right. So that is the normal for loop. But we have array friendly for loop also. This for loop is very flexible. You can go from this way to this way. නේද? දෙක පැන යන්න පුළුවන්. මෙතන I equal I plus equal 2 දාලා. හැබැයි ගොඩක් අයට array වල data process කරද්දී අපිට ඔක්කොම ටික process කරන්න වෙනවා. ඒ වගේ තැන් වල අපිට පුළුවන් ඔය ඩෙඩි සරල for loop එකක් තියෙනවා නේ. for මේ data type එක ඔයාලා variable එකක් declare කර ගන්නවා. say int අපි හිතමු y කියලා colon your array. ඔච්චරයි. දැන් ඔයාලට පුළුවන් මේ y ගේ හැමතිස්සෙම value එක තියෙනවා. හැමතිස්සෙම 0th element එක ඉතින් last element එකට යන්න. හරි. මම comment කරමු. So I'm going to get the same output now. Right. Same output. So that is the array friendly for loop. This for loop can be used not only for arrays, we can use it for collections as well. Okay. Then api data type ඉවරයි, arrays ඉවරයි. Data types ඉවරයි, arrays ඉවරයි. Structured programming වල ඊළඟට තියෙන්නේ මොකද්ද? Operators, control structures and methods. ඒක structured programming ඉවරයි. Right. So let's move on to the operators. දැන් මේක ඉවරයි කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම ඔක්කොම කියන්න ඕනේ කියලා ඉවරයි යා. හරි. බහුතරයක්. නමුත් අර Java වල තියෙන කතන්දර මම කිව්වේ නෑ. මේ naming rules කිව්වේ නෑ මම නේද? ඊළඟ naming conventions කිව්වේ නෑ. එක class එකක source file එක තියෙනවා. එහෙම ඒවා කියන්න ගියේ නෑ මම. හරියට. ඒවා කරන්න ගියොත් එහෙම රෑව එකක් කරන්න ඕන. ඒවා note එකේ තියෙනවා. ඒවත් මම උන ටග් ගාලා කියාගෙන යන්නම්. මහා වැඩක් නෙමෙයි. මහා වැඩක් කියනවා. So remember when please make sure that your microphone is mute. Okay. Right. So when it comes to naming identifiers, that is variable names, method names, class names. there are some rules. What are the rules? It must start with letter, alphabetical letter, or dollar, or underscore, nothing else. And followed by these things, or letter, dollar, underscore, or number, right? Number. So මුලට පටන් ගන්නේ numbers තියෙන බෑ නමුත් පළවෙනි එකෙන් පස්සේ numbers තියෙන පුළුවන්. And other characters like space, hash, right, star, they are not allowed. That is a rule. And convention exam එකේ බලන්න classes must be camel case starting with capital, meaningful noun. Variables, camel case starting simple, meaningful noun. Methods, camel case starting simple, it must have verb part as well. Okay, right, that's it on negative. When it comes to Java files, you have to save it in .java extension. So your one source file can have any number of classes, but you can have maximum of one public class. If you don't have any public class, you can give any name, any valid file name. But if you have public class, your file name must be same as the public class name. Okay, public class name. So when you compile, you have to give the file name, and it is not case sensitive. If you have 10 classes, you will be getting 2 class files, and their name will be case sensitive class name. When you are running, if you have main method, you have to write Java case sensitive class name without dot class, case sensitive class name. Here it's not case sensitive, here it is case sensitive. Okay, you can have maximum one public class. If you have public class, your file name must be same as your class name. Otherwise, you can give any other name. Right, now we are moving to the operators. Operators. So operators, you can subdivide it to, just give me 1 minute. Right. Operators, you can subdivide it to categories. Organize so those are arithmetic operators. Okay. First of all, you must know the assignment operator. It's operator. Okay. Right. First operator is assignment operator. So then you have arithmetic operators. Then you have arithmetic assignments operators. Arithmetic and assignments together. So then you have equality operators. Equality. So then you have comparison operators. Comparison. So then you have Boolean operators. Boolean logic operators. Finally, you have bitwise operators. So bitwise, again, you have the normal bitwise operators and bitwise bit shift operators. Right? Bitwise logic and bitwise shift. ඒක බයන තු පේන්න ඕන. හරි. මොකද හැම සබ්ජෙක්ට් හැම ඕක C වලත් එහෙමයි, C# වලත් එහෙමයි, Python වලත් එහෙමයි, PHP වලත් එහෙමයි. මේ ඉගෙන ගන්න එකපාරයි. එකපාරයි හරියට. Right. Assignment operator is equal mark. So we have already used it. Int x equal 10. In arithmetic operators, we can subdivide it into 2. හරි මම ලස්සන කඩා ගන්න. Right. Binary arithmetic, unary arithmetic. So binary means you need 2 operands, right? 5 plus 3, binary, 2 operands. Unary means something like this, just 1 operand. So binary operators are addition, subtraction, make a plus name, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and mod. Unary operators are plus, minus, increment, and decrement. Hari? මේවා දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවනේ. එකතු කිරීම අඩු කිරීම වැඩි කිරීම වෙදී මෙයා තමයි ට්‍රිකි එක කරන්නේ. ඉතින් මේ ට්‍රිකි එක කරන්නේ තමයි එක්සැමිනර් ප්‍රශ්න අහන්නේ. එක්සැමිනර්ට මොලේ අමාරුවක් නැහැ නේ මේ ඔබ්වියස් දේවල් වලින් ප්‍රශ්න අහන්නේ. හරි එක්සැමිනර් බලන්න ඔයා සීරියස්ද කියලා. සීරියස් ආවෙ අපි ගන්න. සීරියස් නැති අයව හලලා යනවා. ඔය දැන් සමහරු කියන්නේ මේක හරි අමාරුයි නේද? ඒක යමාරු නම් වෙන වැඩක් කරගන්න. හැමෝම ඉන්ජිනියර්ස්ලා කරන්න අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නැහැ. මොකද සමාජයේ ඉන්න හොඳම සෙට් එකක් අරගෙන තමයි ඉන්ජිනියර්ස්ලා කරන්නේ. සමාජයේ ඉන්න හොඳම සෙට් එකකට තමයි දොස්තරලා කරන්න ඕන. මිනිස්සෙගේ ජීවිතේ බාර දෙන්න. හැමෝටම ආසාව තියච්ච පරියට කරන්න දෙන්න බෑ. දැන් ආසාව තියච්ච රට කරන්න කියලා දැන් පේන්නේ නැහැ. කරගන්න තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. කරගන්න තේරෙන්නේ නැති වුණාට ආසාවට කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ නානවා හානවා නේද? ගොම තමයි දැන් කන්න වෙන්නේ ඊට පස්සේ. right. So this is the tricky guy. මෙයා තමයි tricky එක. tricky එක කෙනාගේ තියෙන කතන්දර ටික ඔළුවේ තියෙන්න ඕන exam එකට යද්දි. මොකද exam එකට යන්නේ පරදින්න නෙමෙයි නේද? ඒතර මේ මිනිස්සු දිනන්න හැමදෙස්සම වැඩක් කරන්නේ. පරදිලා පුරුද්දක් නැහැ ඒගොල්ලන්ට. exam වලට කියලා fail වෙලා පුරුද්දක් නැති වෙන්න ඕන. ඒක අන්තිමට තමන්ගේ චරිතේ බවටපත් වෙනවා. තමන්ගේ චරිතය තමයි නැත්තම් මොකද හැමදාම fail පරාදයි කාලකන්ණි හිඟන නේද? එහෙම නෑ සමහරු හැමදේම ඒගොල්ලෝ හරි ඇග්‍රෙසිව්. ඒගොල්ලෝ දිනන්න විතරයි දන්නේ. මෙන්න මේක හොඳට බලාගෙන යන්න ඕන. මේ මොඩ් කරාට පස්සේ මොකද වෙන්නේ කියලා. හරි ඒක බලාගෙන යන්න කොහමද? කෝඩ් අරගෙන ඉස්සෙල්ලා තියරි එක පොඩ්ඩක් ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. ඊට පස්සේ කෝඩ් අරගෙන බලනවා. right මොනවද වෙන්නේ කියලා. For example say int x equal 12 mod 3 වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? So that must be ඉතුරු වෙන ගානම දාන්න 12 mod 5 say x obviously the answer is remainder is 2 ඊට පස්සේ බලන්න මේක decimal වල මොන හරි වෙයිද examiner ට වහන්න සම්පූර්ණයි තියෙනවා allow කරන්නේ නැහැ දැන් මේ පැත්තට දාන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් ඔය එහෙම එකකට කිව්වොත් එimhe නෑ allow උත්තර එනවා කියලා so that is the answer is wrong. ඒ වගේ මේක බලාගෙන යන්න ඕන ගන්න. හරි. So both must be integer. In Java both must be integer. Python වගේ කරපුවා දන්නේ නැති ඒක කොහොම නෑ. Python වගේ language වල ඔක වෙන හොටපඩ ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. හැබැයි Java වල දෙපැත්තම integer වුණොත් විතරයි ඔයාගේ mod operator එක වැඩ කරන්නේ. right දෙපැත්තම integer කියන්නේ whole number වෙන්න ඕන right even long will work right 12 mod say 2l 2l වලට පාවිච්චි කරන්න බෑ දැක්කත් අන්න ඒක මම දැක්කා දෙකම long දැම්මත් වැඩ කරන්නේ so it looks like it is working only for integers okay right. So then you have the arithmetic assignments. For example, if you want to do, say, int a equal 10, if you want to write a equal a plus 10, you can write it like a plus equal 10. Similarly, you have the minus equal, a multiply equal, a division equal, even a mod equal, right? Arithmetic assignment operators. And then you have the increment and decrement operators. A, say int, the operators you are කරන්න ඕන. So a plus plus. So it will be 11. දැන් මෙයාගේ මෙහෙම ලියන එකේ වෙනසක් නැහැ. Whether you write a plus plus or plus plus a is the same result, but it has a meaning when you assign. ඒක තමයි examiner අහන්නේ. examiner අනිවාර්යෙන් ඔක අහනවා තමයි. ඔක අනිවාර්යෙන් අහනවා. මොකද්ද? say int b equal a plus plus මොකද්ද උත්තරේ කියලා අහනවා නේද? ඔක තව කරකවල දෙන්නේ. මේක උත්තරේ මොකද්ද? if you print a and b. ඒක තමයි tricky scenario එක. What is the output? Now this is a plus plus. So therefore current a is assigned to b, which is 10. So therefore your b is 10. Then a is incremented. So therefore when you come to this line, your a is 11. So the output is 11 and 10. ඔන්නෝක දැනන් ඉන්නවා. ඔන්නෝක දැනන් ඉන්නවා. Right? Output is 11 and 10. But if you want to get 11 and 11, you have to go for prefix notation. So then first a is incremented, therefore a is 11, then that value is assigned. So you can operator precedence. Now it is both 11 and 11. operator precedence ගැන examiner අනිවාර්යෙන් අහන එක එක්තරා විදිහකට මම කරුමයක්. හරි. ඒ ඔයාලට ටිකක් bigger expressions දීලා අහනවා නේද? පොඩ්ඩක් අර වගුව මතක තියාගෙන ඉන්න ඕන operator precedence වගුව. ඔය ආයේ වගුව ඔන්න ඔය වගුව මතක තියෙන්න ඕන. Highest priority is for the parentheses. Then these increment decrement operators, right? Then the multiplication division mode has same precedence. Plus and equal has a lesser precedence. Then the shift operators, then relational, equality, then the blah blah blah. Right? Logic operators වලට තියෙන ගොඩක් අඩු precedence එකක්. ඒතර අඩු මේක එහෙම මෙහෙමවත් මතක තියෙන්න ඕන. exam එකේ තියෙන question කරන්න ගියා. හරි? Right. So then you have the equality operator. So equality operator we have is equal and is not equal නේද? එයා equality operator එක කරද්දී ඔයාලට එකක් මතක තියෙන්න ඕන. So let's say b equal 20. Now you can say is ax equal to b. Now it's going to say false. It's obvious නේ. If you ask is a not equal to b, it is going to say now true. ඒක obvious. value එක තමයි බලන්නේ. data type වෙනස් වුණොත් මේක කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඔන්න ඊළඟ ප්‍රශ්නේ. compatible නම් පුළුවන්. say byte. You can do it. What about if this is float? Is it going to give me false? Yes. Then what about this? May compatible. Compare karan puluwan. What about something like boolean? B equal false. ඒවත් බලාගෙන යනවා. එතකොට බෑ. Yeah, numbers compare කරන්න පුළුවන්. But if they are apple and orange, you can't. Apple and orange, you can't. So here char will also work because char is implicitly castable නේ. නේද? මතක char implicitly castable නම් ඒකත් පුළුවන්. char. දන්නවා ඒකේ char a 65 නේ. If this is 65, if this is a, if I ask whether a and b are equal, it's going to say what? It's going to say yes because a is 65. එයා ඒ වගේ අවස්ථාවල සද්ද නැතුව numbers කරගන්නවා. ඔක නිතර examiner බලන්න. It says true. But if it is b, no, because b is 66. ඔය වගේ තැන් වලින් තමයි examiner question අහන්න හදන්නේ. Right. So that is equal and is not equal. Compatible. ඒවා implicitly castable ඒවා කරගන්නවා යා. හරි කොහොම හරි එක පැත්තකට. හැබැයි එහෙම නැති ඒවා කරන්නේ නැහැ. boolean වගේ ඒවාත් එක්ක compare කරන්න බෑ numbers. Right. So that is equal. තව nothing. Right. So then we have of course the arithmetic equal this, then comparison. මොනවාද comparison වලට ආйти? මේක ඉවර කරනවා. ඉවර කරනවා කියන්නේ ඉවරට ඉවරයි යා. examiner ට දුවන්න ගහන්න යන්නේ. හරි. is greater than no equal, is less than no equal. ඔච්චරයි. මේක වැඩ කරන්නේ මොනවටද? numbers compatible නම් ඕන numbers ඊළඟට char ඔන්න ඕකට වැඩ කරනවා. char සහ numbers වලට වැඩ කරනවා. char නම් කොහොමද compare කරන්නේ? ASCII value එකේ. ඒ examiner අහන්නේ මේක numbers වලට. examiner අහුවොත් අහන්නේ char වලට. මොකද examiner දන්නවා ඔක numbers වලට ඕන හරකෙට්ටක් තේරෙනවා කියලා. Say this is A. Now you can ask whether A is greater than B. Now A greater than B means A can have a paha, B can have a higher. So therefore it has to say false. So ASCII value को पाविච්චි කරා. So හරි මේක අවුලක් නැහැ නේ මම කාස්ටින් උතුනානේ. හරි. දැන් මට මෙතන මොකද implicit casting. දැන් මේක සමහර දැක්කම මේක බය හිතෙනවා. බුදුහාම මෙන්න int වලට A කියලා දාලා int වලට A දාන්න පුළුවන්. int වලට A දාන්න පුළුවන්. When make a C unanang, then make a true. Then make a true. So C look it. Or maybe you can use both char. Both char. Have I made string world add karna? No, nitara balno. String world add karana the Samahal language will make a string world add karna. Mata mata char comparison neka වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ Java වල string වලට. say AB and AC. Now you can see it. String compare කරන්න බෑ මේකෙන්. String compare කරන්න ඕන නම් වෙන method එකක් තියෙනවා. මොකද ඔයගොල්ලෝ string කියන්නේ topic එකනේ. If you want to compare string, you have another method. මොකද method එක? කාටද මතකද? compare to කියලා method එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකෙන් තමයි අපිට compare කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ දෙන්න කොයි එක්කෙනාද. දැන් මෙතන නම් C ලොකුයි B ට වඩා. මොකද පළවෙනි character එක සමාන වුණාට දෙවෙනි character එක තමයි ඊළඟට යා බලන්න. හරි. string compare කරන්න බෑ අරකේ. ඒක එන්නේ +1 -1 එහෙමයි එන්නේ. සමාන නම් 0 කියලා එනවා මට මතක විදියට. A B ම දාලා බලන්න. මේක ඔයාගේ note එකේ තියෙනවා. හරි. දැක්ක 0 කියලා තියෙනවා. නැත්නම් +1 එනවා ලොකු නම්. Right. So that is comparison operators. So then you must know the Boolean operators. Boolean operators මොනවද තියෙන්නේ? And or not. And or not. ඔච්චරයි වෙන මොකුත් නැහැනේ. And or not. XO නැහැ. XO තියෙනවා bitwise වලදී. ඔන්න තව විශේෂ අවස්ථාවක්. Bitwise you have XO but not in Boolean. ඊළඟ Boolean මේකේ තියෙන විශේෂ එක්කෙනා තමයි මොකද්ද? We have two versions. දන්නවනේ ඔක්කොම දැනගෙන යන්න ඕනේ නේද? So this is short circuited version. This is non-short circuited version. This is short circuited door, non-short circuited door. And is always short circuited. There's nothing called non-short circuited. Okay. අයිදක වෙනස දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ. Short circuit වෙනවා කියන්නේ මොකද? Short circuit වෙන්නේ නැහැ කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? නේද? For example, if you have a Boolean, මොකද ඔබ and එකයි o එකයි නොදන්න කෙනෙක් නැහැනේ. A equal, so let's say something like this. Int A equal 10 if A greater than 5 and A plus plus less than 10. Let's say SOUT high, and I am going to write SOUTA. දැන් මොකද මේකේ output එක? මේකේ output එක මොකක්ද? ඔන්න මම paper එක හදනවා නම් අනිවාර්යයෙන් මේ question එක දාන්න. මේක output එක. So now we know that A is 5, A is 10. So 10 is not greater than 5, 10 is less than 5. So therefore it is false. When you have and when this is false, it doesn't evaluate this one because this is non-short, this is short circuit version, right? So therefore it does not go there. Therefore it won't print this and the output will be still A is 10. A is 10. Is this short circuit? Sorry. A is 10 is greater than 5. Sorry. So we have to go for the other way. Right. Other way. Right. So now A is 10 is not okay. 10 is less than 5. Yes. Now 10 is not less than 5. So therefore it is false. So therefore it will not go to this side. So therefore output will be 10. Right? 10 output will be 10. Sorry. But if you don't want to make it short circuit, that means you want to force it to evaluate the rest of the stuff. Though we already know the output, we want to force it to evaluate, you have to go for the non-short circuit version. So that will evaluate this one also, because when you are evaluating, it will be incremented by 1. So therefore now your output is 11. Right? So that is the. So in O also you have the same concepts. Short circuit version, non-short circuit. If short circuit when true no. Right? Because true now and a short circuit when false no. Right? So then, and of course the not operator is there. So then you have the bitwise operators. So you have the bitwise and, bitwise O, bitwise not, bitwise XO. And shift we have left, shift, and you have two right shift, sign right shift and unsigned right shift. ඒක මම කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. හරි ඒක කරන්න ගියොත් වෙලා යන හන්දා ඒක නෝට් එක රිෆර් කරන්න මම එකක් විතරක් ඕනනම් කරන්නම් say I have එතකොට වැඩ කරන්නේ මොන හරි byte වගේ variable එකක් හරි byte int එක වැඩ කරන්නේ එතකොට ඔයාලට 2's complement වලට යනකම question එක අහනවා හරි shift කරාට පස්සේ ඍණ වුණොත් අර මේ පැත්තේ කෙරවල එක වුණොත් ඔයා දැනගන්න මේක ඍණ සංඛ්‍යාවක් දැන් තියෙන කියලා 2's complement කියලා right so let's say byte a equal 10 say byte b equal 12 now they can ask what is a o b a o b මොකක්ද දෙන්නේ එතකොට දැන් මේක කොහොමද කරන්නේ so you have to find the binary value of 10 binary value of 10 is 502110 1010 byte කොහොමද තව හතරක් දාගමු then 12 වැරදුත් කියන්න 6030111100 දැන් O වෙනවා bit level එකේ වෙන්නේ 0000 101 011 1011 මේ ටික on 0 දැන් මේ කීයද උත්තරේ 248 40 answer is 40 so the answer will be 14 because it's a bitwise operator right? If it is bitwise and this is 0 this is 0 this is 0 only 1 1 2 4 it will be 8 and if it is bitwise XOR මෙතන ඉවර කරගන්න වැඩි XOR මොකද වෙන්නේ මෙයා 0 මෙයා 1 මෙයා 1 මෙයා 0 එතකොට 2 4 8යි sorry 2 4 6යි 6 right? and of course bitwise not එකක් කරොත් එහෙම එතකොට එකයි ඕනවා bitwise not එක වෙනස් නේද boolean වල මේක not bitwise වල title එක right මෙයා not කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ say a is 10 10 කියන්නේ මෙයා not කරපු ගමන් මොකද වෙන්නේ මෙයා ඍණ සංඛ්‍යාවක් වෙනවා ඒ 2's complement එක තියන් ඉන්නේ 11110101 මේ කීයද 124 816 32 64 main minus 128 ඉතින් ඔක්කොම කීයද දැන් 6 plus 4 10 14 16 17 7 10 11 නේ 117 minus 128 minus 11 එන්න ඕන බලන්න මම වැරද්ද වෙන හැටි හිතනවා හරි වැරද්දුත් කියන්න minus 11 එනවා බලන්න yes එතනින් පටන් ගත්තම 2's complement එක ඉවර වෙන්න ඕන මොකද ඒකනේ computer system subject එකක් තියෙන්නේ right ඒ වගේ වලට කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන හරි so then the bit shift නේද මේ පැත්තට shift කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ මේ පැත්තට shift කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ මේ පැත්තට sign එක preserve කරලා shift කරොත් හරි මේ පැත්තට shift කරොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ මේ පැත්තට sign එක preserve කරලා shift කරොත් sign එක preserve නොකර shift කරොත් එතකොට මේ පැත්තේ කෙරවලේ 1 නම් තියෙන්නේ 1ම දාන්න ඕන sign වලදී unsign වලදී කොහොමද 0 තමයි දාන්නේ ඒව බලා ගන්න right now we are done with operators right so now we have only two more topic for the structured programming that is control structures and methods නේ control structures ටිකත් අපි කළා පොඩි break එකක් ගමු එතකොට වැඩි සෑහෙන ඉවරයි so when it comes to control structure එකේ මම ඉතින් examples කරන්න නැහැ ඒක ඔයගොල්ලෝ තනියෙන් කරගන්න ඕන වැඩනේ so when it comes to control structures we have sequence selection or condition repetition and transfer මොනවාද sequence control structure so that is we have already done මෙහෙම කරාම යටට execute වෙනවා selection we have two selections the boolean selection which is if value selection, which is select. මෙයා boolean එකක් බලලා select වෙන්නේ. මෙයා value එකක් දිහා බලලා select වෙන්නේ. 1ද 2ද 3ද කියලා. In repetition, we have the while loop, do while loop, and the for loop. For loop has the array friendly or the collection friendly for loop as well. Transfer, we have the break and the continue. Right. So when it comes to if, you can use if, simply if with else, if with else if. And select, select with break, select without break. Without break කරොත් fall through වෙනවා break එකක් එනකම්. හරි? ඒව මම කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. Select එක වැඩ කරන්නේ char, whole numbers, string කියන type වලට. right? Decimal වලට වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ, boolean වලට වැඩ කරන්නේ. break එක නැත්තම් හරියකට ආවට පස්සේ ආයි break එකක් නැත්නම් ඉවර වෙනකන් යට තියෙන ඔක්කොටම fall through වෙනවා. right? Which can be used for advantage when there are common things to be done. So then the while loop, we check the condition at the beginning, do while check the condition at the end. In the for loop, it's just like a while loop, compact way of writing the while loop. And break can be used in two ways, with label, without label. So without label, with label. Continue also without label, with label. So without label will break or continue the nearest outer loop. The with label, it will continue or break the labeled loop. So that is the difference. Okay, that is the difference. Maybe one obviously my examples karanne yanne naha, but I am going to do just one example for this. Making විතරක් example එකක් කරනවා. Just a coding example. Example can code da. Say I have two for loops. A is less than 5, A plus plus. Assume I have another for loop. B, let's say less than, okay, 5 කරගමු. Right. So I have S out, A space B, okay, A hyphen B, let's say print. Here I have S out. Here I have S out. Now if I have something like if B equal 3, break, what is output? ඔන්න ඔය ටික වඩ පුළුවන් නම් වැඩි දැන් දන්නවා. break, what is output? So this break will break the nearest outer loop. So therefore you will start with 0. Make 1 වලින් පටන් ගමු. So therefore first out A will be 1. So therefore 1, 1, right? මෙයා පහළට යන්නේ නැහැ. හරි පහළට යන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක හින්දා මෙතන පොඩි ස්පේස් එකක් දාමු. Right, 1 1 will be print, then 1 2, right, 1 2, 1 3 will not print because it break කිව්වා මෙයා මේ loop එක එළියට යනවා. එතකොට එතනින් කතන්දර ඉවරයි. ඇතුලේ loop එක ඉවරයි. ඊට පස්සේ ආයෙ මෙයා දෙක වෙලා ආයෙ එනවා දැන්. 2 1 2 2 ආයෙ එළියට යනවා. 3 1 3 2 ආයෙ එළියට යනවා. 4 1 4 2 5 1 5 2 and that's it because this for loop is over. Output is like that. ඒක ටකස් ගාලා ඔළුවට වදින්න ඕන දැන්. right, break වෙන්නේ මේ ඇතුලේ තියෙන loop එක. එයාට 3 4 කියලා යන්න විදියක් නැහැ දැන්. හරි. කුඩායි පහ කරන පහ වදින්නෙත් නැහැ නේ. මෙතන ඉවරයි. The output is something like that. Array out of bound exception එකක් එනවා. curly bracket එකක උඩ පඩයක් තියෙනවා. this curly bracket this curly bracket, and I need another curly bracket for the method date. Run. Right, you can see 1 1 1 2 2 1 2 2 3 1 3 2 4 1 4 2. Right. දැන් ඔයා දැනගන්න ඕනේ මෙතන label break එකක් දැම්මොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? So I am going to have a label. Loop එකට උඩින් label එක දාන්න. හරි. අපි කියමු මෙයා OU කියලා. දැන් අපි කියනවා මෙතන break OU කියලා. දැන් මෙයා out මෙන්න මේ loop එකෙන් තමයි එළියට යන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයාලට 1 1 1 2 print වෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ loop එකෙන් එළියට යනවා. එතකොට ඔච්චර output එක. Just 1 1 1 2. Just 1 1 1. That's it. So if you want to break out outer loop, ටික ඈත තියෙන loop එකට යන්න ඕන label එකක් දාලා ඉතින් label එක දාන්න. So then what about the continue? හරි. label එක තුනට මම label එක use කරන්නේ නැහැ. label එක තුනට කමන්න පාවිච්චි කරන්න. continue කරාම මොකද වෙන්නේ? එයාගේ current iteration එකේ it will not do the rest of the current iteration, it will join the beginning of the next iteration. It's something like when you are say you are going round and round. Break means you are stopping the task entirely. But continue means now you start somewhere here. You come here, continue is false. You go there, continue is false. Condition is false. And now you go to the continue. That means you are not doing the rest of the stuff. You are again going back to this point and start your next iteration. Or if the condition is again checked, you continue. Otherwise, you get out of it. So මේ iteration එක ඉතුරු ටික විතරයි වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් break එකේ වගේ වැඩේ නවත්තන්නේ නැහැ. අයිතර මේක output එක මොකක්ද? continue කරන්න. So first it will be 1 1 1 2 3 it says continue, therefore this is not print, but continue doesn't mean you are getting out of that. So therefore next time it is දැන් මේ increment එක වෙනවා. මොකද මෙතනට ආවෙ නේද මෙතනට යනවානේ. So therefore 1 3 1 1 1 2 sorry දැන් 3 නෙමෙයි 4 3 වල print උනේ නැහැනේ. දැන් ගියාම 4යි දැන්. දැන් ඊට පස්සේ 4 එක print වෙනවා. 3 එක print උනේ නැහැ. මොකද continue කරන්නේ. And that's it. So then next time ඊළඟට outer loop එක එකක් එකතු වෙනවා. දැන් ඒ දෙකයි 2 1 2 2 2 3 is not going to print because it says continue. 2 4 3 1 3 2 3 4 and that's all. Fourth one, 4 1 4 2 again 4 3 is not print because it says continue. Then 4 4 will be there and that's it. That is your output. You can කිසිම සැකයක් නැති වෙන්න ඕනේ. You can see 1 1 1 2 1 4 2 1 2 2 2 4 3 1 3 2 3 4 4 1 4 2 4. What happens if it is an outer loop? Say OU මම දැන් label එක දැන් පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. Continue කරන්න outer loop එක. දැන් ටක් ගාලා output එක ලියා ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා. So again do a dry run. Dry run එකක් කරන එක ඉතා වැදගත්. Say now our code is මොකද මේක අනිවාර්යෙන් exam එකේ තියෙනවා තමයි. අර code පැදුරක් දෙන්න දිගාරපිය කියලා. ඒක නම් මම කාලකන්ණි question එකක්. Right. So 1 1 1 2 right. Then 1 3 ආපු වෙලාවේ දැන් A1 B3 වෙච්ච වෙලාවේ කියන continue කරන්න කියලා outer loop එක. outer loop එක continue කරන්න කියන්නේ දැන් ඔයා මෙතනින් යන්නේ මෙතනට නෙමෙයි. ඔයා මෙතනින් යන්නේ කොතනද? මෙතනින් යන්නේ මෙතනට. දැන් ඔන්න ඔයාගේ A එකක් එකතු වුණා. A එකක් එකතු වුණාම දැන් A දෙකයි. දැන් ආයි එනවා 2 1 2 2 ආයි continue කරන්න කියනවා. 3 1 B බලන්නේ නේ 1 1 1 2 then continue your A continue කිව්වහම දැන් මේ යට තිබිච්ච මෙන්න මේ print ln එක run වෙන විදියක් නෑ. Okay, so there's a small issue here, right? So මේ ආවන්නේ මෙතනනේ. So therefore output will be 1 1 space 1 2 at 3 it says go and continue here. So therefore nothing will be, rest of the stuff is not going to happen. Rest of the for loop is not going to happen, and also this println is also not happening. So therefore now everything is going to be in the same line. So then it will be again 2 1 2 2 again continue 3 1 3 2 again continue, right? යටි මවලිය ඉදිරියට තියන්න 4 1 4 2 again continue. එච්චරයි 5 එකට යන්නේ නැහැ. So එක line එකේ මේ ටික වදිනවා. යෝක හරියටම තේරෙනවා. කිසිම සැකයක් නැතුව. ඔළුවේ තියෙන logic operators සමග ඔළුවේ තියෙන logic processors වැඩ කරනවා. හරි? neuron 1112 2122 3132 4142. right? යෝක තමයි ඔයගේ උපරිම complexity එකට යන්න පුළුවන් තත්ත්වය. right? So then we are done with that also. Right? So that's done with that also. That is control structures. So structure program ඉවරම කළා දාගමු break එකට කලින්. අන්තිම topic එක මොකද්ද? Methods. So when it comes to methods, what are the things you have to remember or understand? Not remember, understand. Methods. So methods are, what is a method? It's a reusable chunk, code chunk in structured programming. When you are processing, if you are doing the same thing over and over, again you are doing the same thing. Again you are doing the same thing. So what idea is, take this to a method and call it from there. So when you call it from there, this code is, now your code is less and is maintainable. If you want to change this logic, earlier you have to go and change everywhere. Now you just have to change here. You have to less coding, your code is less, and also maintainability is much higher. Right? That is the use of methods. So when it comes to methods, there are few parts. So you have the return type, the method name, parameters, and optionally return. Return type, method name, parameters, the return value. If there's no return value, void. If you have a return type, int or whatever, you have to return that type of value or compatible type value. Int nang int return karno. Float nang float එක. Then of course your name. Then optionally you can have parameters. So you can have any number of parameters, right? And again your parameters must have data type and parameter name. Data type and parameter name. And when you are calling by the position. So the first argument will be your first parameter, second argument will be your second parameter, etc. ඔච්චරයි. මහා දෙයක් නැහැ. මතක ගාලා පොඩි එකක් කරමු. එතකොට ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එකක් ඉවරයි. So this is a method. This is a method because this is the by default the method that will be executed. So you can write your own method. Once you have structured programming කරද්දී හැම තිස්සෙම method එකට static කියලා ලියන්න ඕන. මොකද අපි object oriented පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ නැහැ. Static add, say int x, int y. So return type එකක් තියෙනවා නම් කියන්න ඕන int return type එකක් දාන්න. So let's say return, say int, say t, say t equal x plus y, and we are going to return it because we have returned. නැත්තම් void කියලා එන්න ඕනේ. දැන් අපිට මේව call කරන්න පුළුවන්. call කරන්න කොහොමද? මම return කරන අද variable එකට ගන්න ඕන compatible type එක. int r1 equal at say 10 and 20. And now we can print it. R1 and it will be 30. So මහා ලොකු දේවල් නෙමෙයි නේද? ඉතාලම සරල දේවල්. And also now these are called what? Local variables. Local variables. Local variables. So if you want, you can have global variables like this. Global variables. මේ object oriented නෙමෙයි කරන්නේ ආ. ඒකට ඔයාලා අනිවාර්යෙන් static keyword එක දාන්න ඕනේ නැත්නම් මේ අතර use කරන්න බැරි වෙන හන්දා. object oriented වලදී අපි static එක අයින් කරනවා. Static say g කියලා අපි දාමු variable. Static int say g equal 10. You can refer to those global variables also here. අපි හිතමු method එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා foo කියලා. Static foo, static void foo, S out parameter local variable int L local 10 අපි L print කරමු L is just G1 print කරමු. So global variables can be accessed from your methods. So you can call foo. දැන් මම මෙයා call කරන එක පොඩ නවත්තනවා මේක දැන් තේරෙනවා. So let's call the foo method. Output එක මොකද එන්න ඕන? 10 and 10. 10 and 10. So you can refer to the local variables and global variables. Right. So now let's assume that after that we are changing L to L++, G, G++. That was my I, L, G print. What programming concept that I'm in now? Now your output is L also 11, G also 11. Then mama second time call karna. I foo call karna. Then mukadda output එක. Now every time you call a method, your local variables are reinitialized, but your global variables preserve. Right? So therefore next time again your L is going to be 10 and next 11, but your G is now 11 and ඊළඟට 12 වෙනවා. Right? It's a global variable. Global variables preserve their values. මෙයා ආපහු 10 11 10 සහ 11 කලිනුත් 10 සහ 11 ආයි 10 සහ 11 හැබැයි මෙයා දැන් කලින් තිබිච්ච 11 දැන් ආයි එකතු වුණාම 12 ආයි කෝල් කරොත් දිගින් දිගටම ආගේ global variable එක increment වෙවි යනවා හැබැයි local variable ආයි initialize වෙනවා දැන් ඉන්න ඕනේ your local variables always 10 initially but your G is keep incrementing now keep incrementing but your L is always start with 10 and change to 11 a change එක ආයි අමතක කරනවා යා right ඔච්චරයි තරම් ඉන්නවා only okay right so this is little bit of history of Java that we have done right so what are those out of these which of these are keywords which are not keywords obviously public is keyword static is keyword void is keyword main is not a keyword it's just the main method string is not a keyword it's a class okay right so select from one the following the valid floating point primitive type available floating points data types are either float or double basically floating point කියලාම කියලා දිනන අපිට float එක තමයි ගන්න වෙන්නේ so floating point primitive types හැබැයි අපිට double ගන්නත් පුළුවන් because the floating points කියන්නේ අර IEEE විදිහට තියා ගන්නවා කියන එක so therefore we can both take float and double right select from one the following the valid variable initializations so this is okay right so this is too big compile error right so this is okay implicit casting will happen okay so this is okay because this is a implicit casting will happen this is int literal so this is not okay because char cannot keep strings char can keep only one character okay so this is just a problem solving and so this object oriented concept we are going to discuss now select from the following the valid access control yes access control modifiers we are going to do now right scan a class okay ඒකත් අපි තාම කරේ නැහැ අප්ඩේට් තාම කරේ නැහැ මේවා දැන් කරන්න පුළුවන් මේවා දැන් කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ ටික දැන් කතා කරා හරි ඔය operators මේ ටික මම කතා කරේ නැහැ ඒක ඔයගොල්ලන්ට බලා ගන්න කිව්වනේ මම දැන් හරි so මේ දැන් මේවා ටික ඔක්කොම දැන් කරන්න පුළුවන් right postfix prefix right break statement is there this is obviously going to print only one නේද 0 විතර print කළා මේ එළියට යනවා මොකද මෙතන break statement එකක් තියෙනවා so it will be printing only 0 sorry only 0 then the array iteration is there okay right so blah 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 right so let's move on to the object oriented that paper is nothing right ඒ paper එකේ ඇති දෙයක් නැහැ ඇති දෙයක් නැහැ ඒක fail වුණත් එහෙම මහා නවනින්ගිරාව ඕක fail වුණා කියන්නේ හරි මොන ලැජ්ජ නැති වැඩ විලි ලැජ්ජාව පණ යනවා right so object oriented programming so the second approach of programming or the most popular right now is object-oriented programming. Okay. In object-oriented programming, what happens is we think in terms of objects, right? We think in terms of object. This is how you understand object-oriented programming: object-oriented basics, object-oriented concepts, and advanced concepts. So the basics are the concept called object and the related concept called class. Then you have the concept called message. And of course, the object, we have two features that we are interested: attributes and behaviors, which is common to classes as well. Okay, so then concept wise, we have abstraction, encapsulation, and a special case or stronger form of encapsulation called data hiding, inheritance, and polymorphism. So advanced concept we are not going to do with you, because you will be learning those things in other subjects later. Okay, like open close principles and blah blah blah. Okay, right. So when it comes to the basics, when you are designing a software in object-oriented manner, we look at the system as set of objects communicating and collaborating with each other to achieve their tasks, achieve their objectives. So that is how we look at it. So these are objects. Say this is a customer object, another customer object, right? Maybe order object, payment object, right? Maybe item object. So these objects communicate and collaborate with each other. Say maybe these things are happening when a customer place an order. Right? It includes placing the order, then inventory must be reduced, inventory items must be reduced, the payment must be calculated, and blah blah blah. If it is on credit, the customer's credit account must be adjusted, blah blah blah. So it's objects. When another transaction is happening, another set of objects are communicating and collaborating. This is actually reality. This is how you develop software. Make me nikan katandara kai katandara නෙමෙයි. මේ පතන software developers. Right? Whether you are working in whatever the company, Virtusa or WSO2, right, Millennium IT or the London Stock Exchange or whatever, this is how you write your program. This is how you think when you are designing. Set of objects communicating and collaborating with each other. Right? So this is called messaging. A object calling a behavior of another object is called messaging. Okay. So then your objects have two important things: attributes, behaviors. In structured programming, we break data and process into two. But in object-oriented, we encapsulate attributes and behaviors into one concept called object. Okay. So attributes are the properties. If it is a customer name, right, etc. Behaviors. Right. So remember that these objects can be living things: customer, student, employee, non-living physical things, vehicle, goods, conceptual things, account, order, payment. So this is the trickiest part, because in object-oriented programming, everything is object. Everything is object. So ඒක තමයි මේක සමහර ඩොලුවට වදින්නේ නැත්තේ. සමහරට concept එක වැඩ කරන්න තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. මතක නේද? Small mind discuss people, average mind discuss events, great mind discuss ideas. The great mind වලට යන්න ඕනේ මේ concept එක වැඩ කරන්න. අනිත් අය හැමතිස්සෙම මහ පොළොවේ තමයි ඉන්නේ. අබිලින් මාමා, එන්සිනා, දයාවතී වගේ. හරි මිනිස්සු ගැන කතා කර කර ඉන්නවා. But you have to go into that conceptual level. Right? Even an account is object, payment is object. But regardless of whether it's a concept of physical things or living physical things, we look at it in the same way as object. And whether it's account or customer or vehicle, we say that we have attributes and behaviors. Attributes and behaviors. Okay. And these objects can call the behavior of another object. So that is called message. Okay. So then what is a class? So we can have hundreds of thousands of classes, objects. Bank has thousands of accounts. The supermarket is doing thousands of payments, thousands of orders processing. So therefore, we are not going to consider each and every one separately. Rather, to represent all the customers, we have a customer class. To represent all the orders, we have order class. To represent all the payments, we have payment class. Okay. If it is a bank, to represent all the accounts, they have account class. So then you must know what is a class is. So object is anything that we are interested, and we are interested in its attributes and behaviors. Then what is a class? So you must know the exact baila class එකක් කියලා මෙයන් බොරු බයිලා තේරුම් ගන්න එපා. ගොම් කතා. class එකක් කියන්නේ object ගොඩකට ඒවා තමයි ගොම් කතා. collection of object is a class තනි බොරු. So class is not a collection of object. Class models or represents set of similar objects. Similar objects. Models, represents, collection කියන වචන කිව්ව ගමන් බොරුවක් කියන්නේ. class එකෙන් මොකද කියලා ABC වත් දන්නේ නැති හරකෙක් බුරනවා කියන්නේ. So class is something that models or represents set of similar objects. To represent all the accounts, we have account class. It's not collection of accounts. ඒකට තමයි තියෙන්නේ list නේද? Sets, arrays තියෙන collection කරගන්න. ඒවට මුලක classes. So your account class represent all the accounts objects. Your customer class represent models all the customer objects. Your payment class represent all the payment objects. Your order class represent or models all the order objects. So then the second part of the definition is your class can act as a blueprint. Seal එකක් නැත්නම් තවත් ලස්සනට කියනවා factory to create objects. So it facilitates you to create objects. Create objects. එකට new keyword එක තියෙන්නේ. Account A equal new account. Right? So you can, once you have the class, you can create objects. මේක මේ collection එකක් නෙමෙයි, මේකෙන් වට object හදන්න පුළුවන්. මේක ඇතුලේ තියෙන එක එක දෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වෙලේ හදලා දෙන්නේ. හරි? ඒ වෙලේ හදන්නේ object එක memory එකේ. So that is a class. So that is basics. That is basics. Okay. So then we have attributes and behaviors in a class. Now this is how you model a class. Say account. Attributes, behaviors. Say account number, balance, interest rate. අත්‍යවශ්‍ය දේවල් විතරයි model කරන්නේ. අත්‍යවශ්‍ය අවම ඒකට abstraction කියන්නේ. Abstraction means you model minimum essential things. So that is the first concept in object orientation. Abstraction. You model minimum essential. Well by another. Well by the next. ඒකට abstraction එක කියන්නේ. So then the behavior is also minimum essential. If it is a, say, bank account, say deposit, withdraw, maybe add interest. කොච්චරයි? තමක්වත් කරනවද කියලා account එකට. account එක කියලා සින්දු ගියේ ඉන්නේ නැහැ account එකට. සල්ලි දානවා, සල්ලි ගන්නවා, interest එකතු කරනවා. ඉතින් වෙන මොකුත් කරන්නේ නැහැ. මම දන්නේ බැංකුව වෙන මොකුත් කරන්නේ. ඇතුළේ internal වැඩ වෙන්න පුළුවන්. පොඩි adjustment කරනවා, හරි මොනවා හරි නේද? එහෙම වෙන්න බෑ හරිනම්. හරි account එකට කොහොමද adjustment වෙන්නේ? ඔයාගේ account එකේ තියෙනවද හිටුවම මේ රුපියල් 50ක් මේ එකතු කරා පොඩි වැරදීමක් වෙලා එහෙම වෙන්න බෑනේ. Maybe some they may be අපි කියන්නේ සල්ලි කපනවා කියලා නේද? අර service fees අරම්මනම් කියලා ඒවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So ඒකට තව ඔන්න method එකක් දෙන්න. හරි. Reduce fee or what. That's it. So that is your class have attributes and behaviors. So therefore, your object also has attributes and behaviors. But when it comes to that, that is how you design it. Look at it, analyze and design it. But when it comes to coding, your class has class එකේ තියෙන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් තියෙනවා කීයක්ද? මොනවද තියෙන්න පුළුවන්? කාටද කියන්න පුළුවන්? class එකේ තියෙන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් ටික කියන්න බෑ ටක් ගන්න. මම ලියන්න. ටක් ගාලා කියන්න ඕනද? exam එක හිතාන ඉඳ තියෙනවා. පහක් කියන්න බෑ. වර්ග පහක දේවල්. Instance variables, class or static variables, instance methods, class or static methods, constructor. Right? So those are the main 5 things that you have now. So I code that අර තියෙන අර අවුරුදුසෝ කාලේ තියෙන අර අලියට හැතියනවා කියලා නේද? කොහේ හරි තිබ්බ මේක එක්ක නැට්ට වෙන්න ඕන නේද? ඒ වගේ ක්ලාස් එකක් අරගෙන ඉල්ලලා කොහේ හරි ඇස්තික පියාගෙන ඉවර තිබ්බොත් එහෙම ඕක එක්ක ඉන්ස්ටන්ස් වේරියබල් එකක් උඩ එක්ක ක්ලාස් වේරියබල් එකක් උඩ නැත්නම් ඉන්ස්ටන්ස් මෙතඩ් එකක් උඩ නැත්නම් ක්ලාස් මෙතඩ් එකක් උඩ නැත්නම් කන්ස්ට්‍රක්ටර් උඩ තමයි ලියන්නේ. Right? So then you must know the difference between instance variable and class variable. Instance method and class method, and what is a constructor. So then you are done. Your basic, your next level, your basic is then done. So your attributes can be either instance variable or class variable. Your behaviors must be either instance method or class method. And constructors are used when you're creating object, your constructor will be called. If you don't have a constructor, the Java provide your default constructor, it just facilitate the object creation. But if you want to do any initialization, etc., you can go for constructors. Right? Then how do you decide whether I should go for instance variable or class variable? ඔන්න ඔක තමයි ස්ටඩි කරනවා කියන්නේ. ඔකට අධ්‍යයනය කරනවා කියන්නේ. පාඩම් කරනවා කියන්නේ කාලකන්ණි වැඩි කරන්න එපා. කවුරු හරි පාඩම් කරන්න කිව්වොත් එම් පොල්ලක් කරන් ගහන්න ඕන. right? ඔය කාලකන්ණි වචන ඉස්සෙල්ලම කියලා ඇත්තේ අම්මා තාත්තා. ඒ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ නොදන්න කමට. ඒ මිනිස්සු නොදන්න කමට. ඕගොල්ලන්ගේ ඉස්සරහා පරම්පරාවට පාඩම් කරන්න දෙන්න එපා. පාඩම් කරනවා කියන්නේ මතක තියාගන්න. ස්ටඩි කරනවා කියන්නේ අධ්‍යයනය කරනවා. බෙදලා බලනවා, සම්බන්ධ ටික බලනවා නේද? overview එක බලනවා. That is study. Right. So how do you decide whether we go for instance variable or class variable? දැන් මේකට එක්කෙනෙක් හරි ඉන්නද උත්තරයක් තියෙන්නේ. So if every object gets its own value, it's an instance variable. Every object gets its own value. Say if it is account, every object has its own account number. Every object has its own balance. Your balance is not my balance. Your account number is not my account number. So then it's an instance variable. But if that variable is common to all the objects, common value is there, then you have to make it class variable or static variable. For example, interest rate. If you have a savings account in the Sampath Bank, if I have savings account, if X has a savings account, so everyone has their own balance, their own account number, instance variable. But the interest rate is same for you and me. So therefore, let's not make interest rate instance variable. Let's make it static variable or class variable. Because when the interest is calculated at the end of the month, you also get 10%, I also get 10%, the X also get 10%. That's it. Those are well clear cut decisions. Not anjanam balanna ඕනේ නැහැ. හරි? කාසියට දාන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. Logical thinking වලින් කරනවා. Formal science is you can understand 100%. There's nothing called somewhat understood, අනේ මන් දන්නේ නැහැ, මඤ්ඤම් මඤ්ඤම්. හරි? මඤ්ඤම් මඤ්ඤම් එන්න බෑනේ. එහෙම වෙන්න පුළුවන් physics, chemistry. Right. So that is how you decide whether it's instance variable or class variable. Then how do you decide whether it's instance method or class method? If your method refers to any of the instance variable, it must be instance method. Right? ඔයාගේ method එකේ කොහේ හරි එක තැනක හරි read හරි write හරි කරනවා නම් instance variable එකට අනිවාර්යෙන් instance method. But if your method is not referring to any of the instance variable, none of the instance variable, it can refer to any other variable like class variable. But it is as long as it is not referring to instance variable, you can mark it as a class variable or static, sorry, class method or static method. That's it. That's it. Right? It's very simple. Okay. Right. So that is how you decide on whether it's an instance variable, class variable, or instance method or class method. Okay, right. So then we have the constructor. Constructors are called when your class is instance of the class is created, or object of the class is created. Okay, so that is how. Okay, so the recordings will be available after the class. Okay, right. So because there's power cut anyway everywhere, so we have to get used to that power cuts also. Right. So constructor is when you are creating object. If you want to do something at the object creation time, you can write a constructor, and it will be automatically called when you are creating objects. And again, your constructor is just like an instance method. So therefore, your constructor can also refer to the instance variables. Okay, but you can't call constructor by yourself. Only when you are creating object, constructor will be called. That's all. But instance method, class methods, you can call at any time. Right? So now let's look at this account class. So we have the account number and balance, definite instance variable. So this one, interest rate, we can mark it as a static variable. Code karo. Right. So let's have class called account. So remember, we can have instance variables. We can have class variables, so static variables. Then make a C# වලට ගියත් PHP වලට ගියත් හරි ඕක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේ ඉගෙන ගන්න programming. So you can have constructor. You can have instance methods. You can have class methods, those static methods. Class or static methods. Right. So let's mark our account number as an instance variable, because every object must have its own account number. String, let's say CCT now, say account number. Let's say float balance. Okay, say double balance. So that those are instance variables. ඒකේ හැමම තමයි. කවුරු හරි ගත්තේ මේ හේතුවක් තියෙනවා. හේතුවක් නැත්නම් මෙලෝ මගුලක් කරන්න එපා. Right, then class variables, yes, interest rate, static, say float, double. अरे if අකුරු ලියන්න වෙන හන්ද මම double කරන්න යා. Say interest rate. If you want, you can initialize that also, because right. So let's say 0.1, 10%. So that you must not have any doubt about those. Right. We'll write a constructor later. Then instance method. If your method is referring to instance variables, you must mark it as an instance method. Okay. So instance method means you don't have the static keyword. Class method or static method means you have a static method, static keyword. Okay. Say now we have deposit behavior, right? Deposit, withdraw, add interest. Okay, let's say deposit. Say isla void කියලා පටන් ගන්න අත්‍යවශ්‍ය නම් තමයි return කරන්න. හරි. parameters නැතුව පටන් ගන්න අත්‍යවශ්‍ය නම් තමයි parameters දාන්න. හරි. Say deposit. Then we need void withdraw. Then we need add interest. Now you can say I'm following the conventions. Add interest, camel case, starting with simple, subsequent words are capital. Right? Variables, I'm following camel case. So that is the discipline we expect from professionals. Professionals like discipline කවුරුත් කියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ ඒගොල්ලන්ට. Right? Majority of the software engineers in WSO2 still work from home. Majority, more than 90%. Why? ඒගොල්ලන්ට කවුරුත් ඩිසිප්ලින් උගන්වන්නේ නැහැ. හරි? කවුරුත් බලන් හිටියත් නැතත් ඒක වැඩේ කරනවා. හරි? ඒක මොකද එහෙම තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ හදලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒකනේ ඒගොල්ලෝ first class, second class අරගෙන pass වෙන්නේ. Majority is working from home. It's good for the company, it's good for them. මොකද වෙලා එහෙට මෙහෙට ගියා කියලා කාලකන්ණියක් බස් වලයි වාහන වලයි හිටියා කියලා ලෝකෙට වැඩක් නැහැ නේ. ඒ වෙලාවෙන් භාගයක් ඕගොල්ලෝ ගන්න අනිත් භාගයට වැඩ කරන්න. බස් එකේ හිටියම ඔයාටත් නැහැ අපිටත් නැහැ. නේද? එහෙම ආයතනයක් බලන්න. Right. So then deposit. So what we are going to suppose, if we are deposit, we have to say how much we are going to deposit, right? So therefore, let's have parameter. Say double, say amount. So obviously, when you deposit, your balance must be incremented by that amount. So therefore, balance equal, or you can say balance plus equal amount. Now you can see that definitely you are referring to the instance variable, because balance is instance variable. So therefore, you are not supposed to mark it as static. You can see there's error. You can say non-static field balance cannot be referenced from static context. So yes, this must be instance method. So similarly, withdraw. Again, you have to say how much. Okay, then of course you have to reduce. Again, we have to mark it as instance variable. So instance method, you can't make it static, right? Add interest. Okay, I don't need a parameter now because I know the interest rate. I know the balance, right? So therefore it is balance plus equal balance into interest rate. Again, I am referring to balance. So therefore, I can't mark it static. Static දාපුවම errors වෙනවා රෙඩ් වෙනවා. Balance පාවිච්චි කරන්න. මේක අවුලක් නැහැ මේක බෑලු. Right. So now I have instance variables, static variables, and instance methods. I don't have any class methods. Here I don't have. Okay. Then I can create objects. So let's create a test class. Let's call it account test. So that is where your method, your software is running. Of course, this is command line. You can make it GUI. PSVM. Right. Now you can create, remember, class can act like a factory. And now we are using it as a factory. A1 equal new account. Now you can set account number, etc. Say account number equal, say 001. If you want, you can set balance also, or you can call the behavior for deposit. Say 1000. You can withdraw. මේවා වෙන්නේ අර ATM card එකට ATM machine එකට card එක දැම්මම තමයි object හැදෙන්නේ server එකේ. හරි. This is just a simulation. Well, withdraw ATM card එකේ machine එකකින් card එක ගන්නකොට අර object එක garbage collect වෙනවා. Now if you want, you can print the account number and maybe balance. That is how you do it. Similarly, you can have another object happen created afterwards, so parallelly. ඒවා වෙනවා threads වල server එකේ. Let's call it A2. Say initially 5000, withdraw 1000. Let's print these things later. So now your memory is managing these accounts separately. This is one area of the memory. Set of instance variables are given its own memory locations. Here you have another set of memory locations for the second object. Okay. So this must be A2, A2. Oh, A2, 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 A2. Why it is 0, 0? Yes, I forget to do that. Right. So this is 1000. Let's make it deposit 2000. Withdraw. Sorry, deposit 10,000. Withdraw 1,000. So that is 9,000. Okay. So let's make it 5,000 and withdraw 3,000 to make it 2,000. Okay. To make it 2,000. So 9,000, 2,000. So I can again do some deposit to A1. Still, it is not garbage collected. Okay. So that is what happens. So what happens in the memory? So separate memory is allocated for the first object to A1. Your A2, separate memory locations are allocated for the account number and balance. Account number and balance. But your interest rate is in a global area because it's a common static variable. These objects can refer to that global value, static value. So that is the advantage of marking it as a static. Otherwise, you are unnecessarily wasting your memory. Here also interest rate, here also interest rate. हम एक में एक तो आती है ना. और आनो नहीं ना. ये static करे memory इतना करेगा. वो engineer वो हम memory byte එකම bit එකම ඉතුරු කරනවා. හැම joule එකම ඉතුරු කරනවා. හැම ampere එකම ඉතුරු කරනවා. Right. So therefore, it's better to make it static variable, interest rate, because otherwise you are wasting your memory, your client's memory. Right. So that is how it works. So now let's call the add interest. So this is A1 add interest. A1 in batch process. Let's say after that, because separate memory locations are used, they are going to happen for the relevant variables. 900 200 9,900 2,200. So all those things are now properly happening. Okay. So that is how the object-oriented concepts work. So that is the basics. So that is basics. And object have an object call karena. So we can create one class creating if it is a money transfer or something. There's a money transfer. Right? So there's a class called money transfer. The third party when on web service call like called it money transfer on a ticket the advanced association you have subject called object oriented system analysis and design. So now if you go to the BIT site, they have published the case study. Right? So this is object oriented SAD case. To make object it was a class diagram. You had to draw the class diagram, you had to draw the use case diagram, you had to draw the sequence diagram. So you must be ready for that when you go to the next level. This is semester 4. Let's say we have money transfer. Say we have a method called transfer money or transfer. Say void. Now they can either give you the account number and amount, or they can give you the account objects. Okay. So then you have to have the association here. So you need two accounts. Account, let's say A1, account A2 ඉතින් මේ reality එක බලන්න නැතුව බයිලා කරා කියලා වල ජොබ් එකක් හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ කවුරුත් ජොබ් දෙන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද reality එකේ කරන්න ඕනේ මේවයි කොහොනේ. මෙතන ඇවිල්ලා hello world ගා ඉඳලා හරියන්නේ ඔළුව අනවන. So say you are given the account numbers. Say string AC1 string say AC2 say AC num1 AC num2. This is what we are supposed to do. Then the amount may amount එක transfer කරන්න ඕනේ මේ account එකේ මේ account එකට. Say double amount. Now what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to create account object for this one and this one and do the transfer. Right? Say account. Sorry. Now the instance variables are there. A1 equal say new account. Or you can create that new account also here also. Okay. And set the account number as this one. Then you have to create another account object on the software develop it. Say A2 and set it as the ACC num2. Remember, when there's a transfer, you have to reduce from one account, you have to add to the other account. That's illegal. So then we can have withdraw. For make it simple, I will just call it deposit and withdraw. Withdraw from one guy and deposit from the other guy. But we can have a method called transfer as well. Okay, transfer. But I am going to make it like the withdraw and deposit. Okay, it's something like you deposit to the account 2, withdraw from account 1. But anyway, usually we will have another method. So let's say A1 dot deposit the amount and A2 dot so let's say A1 dot withdraw again adu karna A2 dot deposit the amount. That's it. So if there's a need for money transfer, right? So this must be called, the transfer method must be called. Okay. So now let's see if there's a need for money transfer. Okay. So let's call it new Java class transfer test. Money transfer test. So there's a need to do a money transfer. Okay. So then you have to create a money transfer. Now this one, we can even make it static because this is not, no, we can't make it static because we are referring to instance variable. Okay. So therefore, we have to create object of money transfer. Say ME money transfer empty equal new money transfer. Then you have to call empty dot transfer. Then we can මොන මොනවාද 001 මේ valid account numbers මොනවද තියෙන්නේ or we can do it in the other class. අනිත් එකේම කරමු මේක හරි. මේකට ඕනේ නැහැ. Let's delete this. Delete. Right. Let's go to the account test. දැන් අපි money transfer කරන්න දන්නේ. So empty.transfer say 001 නේද මේවා. මේ object මේවම තබැඩි රස් නේද. So since we have the account object, because we don't have the database, I'm going to do a little bit of change here. Otherwise, we are in problem. Let's say we are not. Then we don't need this one. We can say account say AC1 account, because we don't have the database connectivity for this particular example. Okay, and then you don't have to create objects. You don't have to create objects. You just have to call the withdraw method for the first one and deposit method for the second one. Right. Now that is much better. Right. So now you can send your A1 as the first one, A2 as the second one, and maybe the amount, let's say 500. That's it. Now you can clearly see that this method is not referring to any instance variable. Actually, there are no instance variables also. So if there are no instance variable, how can you refer to a instance variables? So therefore, this is definitely a candidate for static method. Static method name according to this design. So when we have static methods, you don't have to create objects. Of course, if you want, you can create object and call, or else you can just call like this: money transfer class name dot method name, because that is much more convenient. Then you can say A1, A2, 500. Now let's print the then බලමු අරයගෙන් අඩු වෙලා මෙයාගෙන් එකතු වෙලා තියෙනවද කියලා. මොකද software එක develop වෙන්නේ. දැන් ඔන්න ආයෙ බලනවා මෙයාට 500ක් අඩු වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕන. මෙයාට 500ක් එකතු වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕන last time. So that means this must be afterwards 9,400. This is 2,700. Okay. $9,400, 2,700. So that is how object-oriented programming software is developed. ඉගෙන ගන්න ඒවා තමයි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ ගිහලා වෙන දේවල් වලට software develop කරන්නේ අංජනම් බලලා. Right. So that is how the object-oriented. So that is called association. Right. So that is called, this class has association to this money transfer class, and you are calling it behavior. That is message passing. So you are passing a message to the transfer behavior of the money transfer class. Okay. Right. So now we are moving to the other concepts, because we want to finish. We are not going to cover everything. Okay. Can we do this vice versa? What is meant by vice versa? Yes. So then it is going to be other way. Yes, that is a good question. So if you do it, if you change this, now if you want to reverse this, right? You want to reverse this. You send it in the other way. So now it is A2 here. Now it is A1 here. Of course, you have to make it same amount to make the original values. Now you are going to get back to the 9,900 and 2,200 after second transaction. You can see you are back to the original values, right? So you reverse the transaction. Oh, the other person has paid that back. Okay, right. So that is how the object-oriented programming happens. So that is why they always have IQ test, because they don't trust your degree certificate. They don't trust. They trust it for the theory, but they do not trust it for your IQ. Right? So they always have IQ test as the first sort of the challenge. If IQ test is passed only, they ask you for the interview. Otherwise, they don't even ask you for the interview. The big companies. Okay. Because එතනින් එහාට වාගේ IQ එකෙන් තමයි game එක ගහන්නේ. එතනින් එහාට. හරි. Right. So that is, now what are the other concepts? Of course, we have the concept called abstraction. I already explained. Abstraction means you model only minimum essential. Right. So yes, we model only minimum essential. The balance, account number, right? The interest rate, the deposit method. Then what is encapsulation? Put it into structures. Yes, of course, we all use encapsulation. So this is encapsulation. So we have encapsulate our account behavior class to a class. So this method we encapsulate, put it into a structure. Structure structure So even methods we can put it into structures. Making structures curly bracket. So that is called encapsulation. 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 Capsule එකකට දාන්න. කරලකට දාන්න. ඔය කරල් වලට තමයි පොඩි කරල් වලට තමයි දාගෙන යන්නේ. Your account behavior is in one place, right? Your order behavior is in other place. Payment is in one. Again, encapsulate to payment class. Order features are encapsulated to the order class. මේක අර එකට මාදලක් වගේ ලියන්නේ structured programming වල. So we encapsulate different concepts into different classes. So then there's a stronger form of encapsulation. We call it data hiding. It's a stronger form of encapsulation. So there we do not expose our attributes to the other party. Here we did that. Here you can see I have exposed the account number. I can even, this which is really bad thing to do. මෙහෙම ලියන්න පුළුවන්. A1.balance A1 මොකක්ද A1 yes A1.balance equals මම කියනවා 1 million කියලා. So that is pretty bad thing to do. You can't go to the bank and say, can you change my balance to 1 million or whatever. They will say, no, we can't change your balance. If you want to make it 1 million, go and deposit. You have to go and show the behavior. So they will say, we are not supposed to change your balance. හරි අපිවත් තිරේ යන වැඩක් ඕක. එහෙම balance වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ. මම කියලා කියන මගේ account number එක පොඩ්ඩක් මේ 001 එක 2 කරලා දෙන්න බෑද? එහෙම කරන්නේ කොහොමද? Account numbers. So that is pretty illegal violation of the policies නේද? හොරකම් ජඩකම් කරන්න පුළුවන් එතකොට. නේද? හොරකම් ජඩකම් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවා එතකොට. එහෙම කරන්නේ නෙමෙයි software develop කරන්න. ඒකනේ අර ඇඟිලි මාක් කරන machine එකේ එනවා ගමන් පාරට බයිනවා හොරු ටික, තක්කඩි ටික. මන්දනේ අපි නම් අපි පළවෙනි ජොබ් එකේ ඉඳලා අන්තිම ජොබ් එක වෙනකන් අපි හැමදාම කාඩ් එක ගහලා එන්නේ. ඒක අපිට ලැජ්ජාව මදිකමක් නෙමෙයි. නැත්නම් දොර ඇරෙන්නෙත් නෑ. තක්කඩින්ට තමයි ඔය මදිකම. හරි? තක්කඩින්ට පොරෝටි ගන්න කාලා කන්නින්ට ජරාව කනේ උන්ට. ඉතින් software හදන්න එහෙම වෙන්නේ නෙමෙයි. software හදන්න එහෙම නොවෙන්න. ඒකනේ software නෝගුවම් පරල වෙන්නේ. software එකක් දාන්න හදන online කරන්න හදන නෝගුවම. Right. So therefore this is bad. So therefore what we are going to do? We are going to make these private. Data hiding. Private. So when you make it private, only you can access. Others cannot access. So but that is okay for balance, right? So we don't want others to access balance, but they have to call the deposit behavior, withdraw behavior. Okay. But sometimes you want to just check the balance. නේද? ඔයා ගිහිල්ලා balance එක check කරනවා නේද? ATM machine එකට ගිහිල්ලා. එහෙනම් අපි ඒවට getters setters ලියලා තියමු. මේක static method එකක් දැම්මේ නෑ. So we can even ask it to generate it. The IDE. Right? We can say generate a getter. For the balance, I am going to say only getter. Right? So for balance. I think that public method. Now, whenever you want to check the balance, you have to call the get balance behavior because now data is hidden. Data is hidden. Now we are making it properly data hidden application because we don't expose attributes. මොකද අර මෙතන messaging වල දියුනේ මොනවාද? Calling behaviors තියුනේ. හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. So we are calling behaviors. We are not supposed to access others attributes. හරි අනිත් එක attributes access කරන්න තහනම්. Behaviors call කරන්න විතරයි පුළුවන්. මේ තහනම් වැඩක් මේ කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ තහනම් වැඩේ දැන් ඔන්න හදාගෙන යනවා. set balance method එක මම generate කරෙත් නෑ. මොකද ඒක තහනම් වැඩක්. එහෙම ආට හිතිච්ච feature set balance කරන්න බෑ. Therefore I didn't generate it. Right. So I can do the same for the account number. Account number අපිට පස්සේ සමහරලාට වෙනස් කරන්න වෙනවනේ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කරන්න වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකන්ද අපි යාට get එකක් විතර generate කරනවා. Say getter and setter මේක අතින් ලියන්න පුළුවන් ආ. Say getter for the account number. So then I can call the get account number. First, let's make it private. Okay, it's already private. Huh? Metan set account number method dakkone. Usually when you are creating an account, already the account number has to be there, right? So therefore, let's do like this. Right. Okay, get account number I am going to use. Right. So now I have the get account number, but I don't have the set account number. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එහෙම account number මාස අවුරුද්දකට විතර පස්සේ වෙනස් කරන්නේ නැහැ නේද? එහෙම වෙනස් කරන්නේ නැහැ. හදනකොට account number එක set කරා ඒකම තමයි. නැත්නම් cancel කරලා වෙන account එකක් හදන්න. So therefore, now let's introduce a constructor. Right. Now let's introduce a constructor. So what is a constructor? It is something like a method, but your name must be same as the case sensitive class name. And you can't return anything, not even void. Okay, so this is the default constructor. Say, let's say account is created. So whenever account is created, now this constructor is getting called. Right? Errors නැහැ. හැබැයි the account numbers සම set වෙලා නැහැ. null කියලා මේවට. That is obvious because I have not set the account number. So therefore this constructor is okay. Now you can see account is created, account is created. Okay. Sorry, printf not print ln. Whenever account object is created, this constructor is now getting called. Account because we created two accounts. So since we want to send the account number also, so let's write an overloaded constructor. So that is called overloading. You can overload constructors, you can overload methods. So let's have overloaded constructor. Let's say string, say account number. අපි අර නමම පාවිච්චි කරමු. වෙන නමක් පාඩ ඕනේ x කියලා දාන්න පුළුවන්. So then I can set the account number. Say account number equal account number. So this is my parameter. So this is also my parameter. So therefore, if I want to refer to my instance variable, when there's a conflicting situation, you have to say this dot. So this is referring to the instance variable account number is my parameter. Okay. Now I can create account numbers. Then මට පුළුවන් account හදද්දී account number එකත් එක්ක දාන්න. 001 002. Right? We can have 001 002. Okay. All right. Now I am back to the original functionality, but now it's well encapsulated and we are using constructors, etc. properly. Right. So now it is calling the other one. So this is, say this is 1, this is 2, then second constructor is when I called it because we are sending a parameter. Right? Second constructor is called. Okay. Right. So that is data hiding. And also constructors and also constructor overloading. So then we have the inheritance and polymorphism. Then object-oriented concepts are over. The object-oriented topic is right. So what is inheritance? Inheritance means creating hierarchy of classes. Right? Creating hierarchy of classes such that classes below the hierarchy will inherit the non-private attributes and behaviors. So then you don't have to rewrite those functionalities. That is called inheritance. Okay, so let's quickly demonstrate that. Then we are done with that also. It's very easy concept. So let's assume we have a new requirement for the bank. That is, we are going to introduce another new type of account. Let's say it's a super savings account. This is just account. Okay. New Java class, super savings account. Now I can say it extends account. So then it gets all the non-private attributes and behaviors inherited. Now, what are the things we can do with your subclass? There are 3 things are related to subclass. Number one, හරියටම ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. ආයි බය නැතුව ඉන්ටර්විව් එකට යන්න පුළුවන් වෙනවනේ ඉස්සරහ දොරෙන්. එක එකයි කුපපස්සේ කියලා නෙමෙයි. දෙමව්පියන් ඇවලා නෙමෙයි. හරි? ජොබ් එකකට ඇප්ලයි කරලා ඉවරලා අම්මට තාත්තට කියන්න බෑ අපි දන්න කෙනෙක්ට කියන්න බැරිද පොඩි සපෝට් එකක් දෙන්න කියලා. මම කාලා ගන්න එක. අම්මලා තාත්තට කරන්න පුළුවන් ඔයිට වැඩිය ද්‍රෝහි කමක් නැහැ. තමන්ගේ අම්මා තාත්තා යවනවනම් එක එකගේ පස්සේ දේශපාලකයාගේ පස්සේ ඌ ඉපදුනට වැඩිය හොඳයි මැරුණා නම්. හරි? අම්මලා තාත්තට ඊට වැඩිය දුකක් දෙන්න. ඊට වැඩිය දුකක් නැහැ. මුන්ව හදලි වල ඊට පස්සේ මුන්ට ජොබ් හොය යනවා එක එකයි පුකපස්. right? So ඉස්සරහ දොරෙන් යන්න ඕන කියලා ජොබ් එකක් ඇප්ලයි කරන්න ඕන. ඉන්ටර්විව් එකට ෆේස් කරන්න ඕන. right? So therefore there are 3 things when it comes to inheritance. Number 1 is you inherit non-private things. Number 1. Number 2 is you can add new features which is not inherited from your superclass. Number 3 is you can override. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ අම්මගෙන් තාත්තගෙන් ඉන්හෙරිට් වුණාට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ කරපු දේවල් විතරක් කර ඉන්නේ නැහැ නේ. ඔයාලට පුළුවන් අලුත් දේවල් කරන්න. හරි? ඔයාලට ඒගොල්ලෝ කරපු ඔයාලට අල්ලන්නේ නැත්නම් ඔයාලට පුළුවන් වෙන විදියට කරන්න. හරි? ඒගොල්ලෝ අවුරුදු සමරුවේ මෙහෙම මම අවුරුදු සමරන්නේ මෙහෙම. හරි? ඒගොල්ලෝ පොයේ දවසට කරේ මේ වැඩ මම කරන්නේ මේ වැඩ. ඒගොල්ලෝ ගිහිල්ලා නිකන් ඉන්න අයට දාන්න දෙනවා මම ගිහිල්ලා ළමා නිවාසයකට දාන්නක් දීලා. So you can override. You can do new things and of course you inherit things. Inherit කරපුවා අල්ලන්න නැත්නම් override කරන්න පුළුවන්. So that is how inheritance work in software development. Right? So now we have inherited certain things. So therefore, let's assume that our second class is savings account or super savings account. දැන් බලන්න මෙතන කොයි හරි වෙනසක් කරන්නවද කියලා. There's only one place. Why? There's no constructor because you don't inherit constructors. Right? You don't inherit constructors to your super savings account. So that is the only issue now we are having. So therefore, let's write a constructor for the overloaded constructor for that one also. Okay. Other than that, my super savings account is going to act just like your normal account. Okay. So let's override that. So now your class name is super savings account. But again, you don't have to, because this setting the account number is a normal thing. So therefore, if you want, you can just call the your super class account. So account කියනවනේ super කියලා call කරන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට ආයි මොකද මේ වැඩේ අතනය කරලා තියෙනවා. account number set කරන එක. So that is how you call the super classes constructor. Now you are done. So we have my super savings account is acting just like savings account, just like account, nothing fancy. Okay. Let's say ACC, right? Nothing fancy. So therefore, my output is going to be 100% the same output as previous. But one account is a normal account, the other one is a super savings account. But we haven't done any overriding or new features, nothing. Right? So it's exact same output. Right? But remember, your subclass, you can add new features. For example, let's say we have another feature called, say, add bonus. So that will be available only for super savings account, not for the general accounts. Not for the general accounts. අපි එදුම add bonus එකේදී අපි bonus amount එකක් add කරනවා. අපි එදුම predefined amount එකක්. සාමාන්‍යව කරන්නේ අර claims කරනවා නේද? points එකතු කරලා එහෙමයි කරන්නේ. නමුත් let's make it simple. Say we are going to add just 1000 rupees. Right? 1000 rupees. දැන් පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. balance එකට තමයි add කරන්න හදන්නේ. balance plus equal. Okay, so let's say 1000. Now we are in trouble. Why? Balance. I can't access balance. Balance is in the account class. I told you that private variables are not inherited on the access modifiers. You don't inherit private things. Which, right? Now your subclass try to access the balance. So in that kind of a situation, we have to mark them as protected. On protected, so if it is protected, your subclass can access it. Your subclass can. Now it's not read. Now it is not read. Still, it is your balance. Now, if you want for the A2, right? A2, because A2 is your super savings account. Now you can add A2 dot add bonus. About A1 to කරන්න පුළුවන්ද මේක? බෑ. A1 ට features නැහැ. A1 ඇවිල්ලා තාත්තට ඒවා දියුන්නේ නැහැ. පුතාට ඒවා දින්නේ. පුතා තමයි මේ අලුත් ක්‍රමය හොයාගන්නේ. Right? So A1 don't have that because it's a normal account. Now let's print the account number and the balance again. So the balance must be incremented by 1000 for the A. Right? Now it is not 2200, it is 3200. මෙයාගේ මම balance එක print කරේ නැහැ, ආව change එකක් වුණේ නැහැ. So that is adding new features. Right? You inherit certain things and you can add new features. Add new features. And if you are not happy with the way the things are happening, you can overwrite. Overwrite කරන්න පුළුවන්. Say you don't happy with the way interest is given. Super savings account, we need more interest. එහෙමනම් මොකද කරන්නේ? You can override. So you have to have the same method signature. Same method signature. But you are going to write that method again. Now what is the issue? Okay, this is money transfer, not the correct class. We have to get to the super savings account. Override. So we'll give twice the interest rate. අපි interest rate එක දෙකෙන් වැඩි කරමු. මෙයා super savings account වලට දෙගුණයක් පොලි දෙනවා. සාමාන්‍ය accounts වලට දෙන්නේ 110 නම් මෙයාට 120ක් දෙනවා. ඒ තියෙන එකෙන් දෙගුණයක්. Now when you call the add interest method here, are we calling the add interest method? Yes. අපි add interest method එක අන්තිමට call කරමු. ඒකට අපි බලන්න ලේසි. ඔක්කොම කුටපට ටික කරලා ඉවරලා add interest call කරමු. Now for the A1, accounts add interest method is called, but for A2, super savings account add interest method is called. That is called dynamic binding or late binding. Okay, object එකට run time එකේ තමයි decide කරන්නේ. So therefore, for A1, 10% will be added, A2, 20% will be added because we override and we are adding multiplied by 2. Okay, then බලමු. Let's run it. Right. So you can see here 9,000, 9,900, 10%. 3,000 is not 3,300. It is 3,600. It has, because the way we add interest to the super savings accounts are different. Right. The way we add interest to super savings accounts are different. So therefore it is 3,600. Okay, 3,600. So that is how you override. Now you can see that we inherit certain things, we can add new features, at the same time we can override. If you are not happy the way the super class is doing it, or we want to do it in a different manner because it's a special product, special account, we can override. So those are the main concepts in this object orientation, right, related to inheritance. Then there's another concept called overloading. That is a simple thing where you can have multiple signatures, maybe not different number of parameters and different number of or different data types. So those are simple things. Okay, right. So that is inheritance. So the final concept is polymorphism, right? So then your object-oriented topic is over. That is half of your syllabus. Polymorphism. So polymorphism means your object can take many forms, many forms. So many forms in the sense its own form when you have a class hierarchy. Say my A, B, C, and D. My D can take the form of D, form of B, or form of A. So that is called polymorphism. So therefore, when D is expected, I can send a D object. D is expected from the parameter is a D type. Already we use polymorphism. Okay. So here you can see money transfer we are calling. So it's expecting account. Right? First one is account, second one is account. But you can see that it is expecting account object, first parameter and second parameter. But in the test class, there is money transfer. Right? We are sending A2. Here A1 is a account object. My A2 is a, where is my A2? I'm sending A2. Transfer second parameter, I'm sending A2. A2 is a super savings account. So the method says I need two accounts object, but I am sending account object and super savings account object because my super savings account is a subclass. My super savings account is a subclass of account. So this is account, this is super savings account. So when an account is expected, I can send account and also I can send a super savings account because super savings account is an account. So that is called polymorphism. So now you can see the polymorphism promote reusable code, or we call it open close principle. Your software must be open for extension, close for changes. So we decided to introduce this new type of account later, right? Because by the time the money transfer functionality was already developed, but later we decided that okay, let's introduce another type of account called super savings account. But when we introduce another class of type of account, we never had to go and change this code. So that is called open close principle. Since we had code to the super type, when the account is expected, I can send a super savings account. In the future, if I created the children account, still the money transfer method we don't have to change. We don't have to change because that account will also be a candidate for this method. We don't have to do any change to this one. So that is called polymorphism. When account is expected, I can send a subclass of that account class, my super savings account. In the future, maybe a children savings account or senior citizen savings account. I don't have to come and change this. So that is called polymorphism. Okay. So this polymorphism concept can be further extended by letting an object to take not only its super type forms, right? Not only its super type forms, we can even extend to something like this. Say this is my class hierarchy. Class A, class B. Say this is class C, and this is my class D. Now my class D has the form of D, and it can take the form of B, and it can take the form of A. But in Java and modern software programming languages, only single inheritance is supported. So you can extend from only one class. you cannot extend from two classes like this. This is not allowed. This is not allowed. This was allowed, or this is still allowed in C++. But from Java onwards, this feature is discarded because there's a drawback. We call it deadly diamond death phenomena. But sometimes we need to play multiple roles. For example, your dog want to be animal as well as pet. Right? So then we have a concept called interfaces. Interfaces. Say interface 1. Then we say we implement, so realize an interface. You can implement or realize any number of interfaces. So then your D is taken in the form of D, form of B, form of A, even you can take the form of I1 and I2. If I1 is expected, you can send a D. If I2 is expected, you can send a D. Right? Ek ma explain කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ දැන් ඒක explain කරන්න කිව්වොත් අපයක් විතර යනවානේ. ඒක class එකේ explain කරා පැය දවස් භාගයක් විතර අරගෙන. හරි? Interfaces පාවිච්චි කරන්න කොහොමද කියලා. ඒ interfaces වලින් තමයි තනිකර swing programming වල game එක ගහන්නේ. So you can see this is just extending the J-frame. So that is inheritance. All of a sudden you become a J-frame. But if you go to the event handling, you can say that this one extends J-frame. That is why you are window and you are implementing the action listener. Therefore, you have the form of a J-frame as well as you are now acting like action listener. So that is why you can say, please send me whenever there's an action related to a button, please send it to me. I am action listener. So you can't extend. You can extend only one class. Others you have to implement the interfaces. You can implement the action listener, mouse listener, right? So that is your my frame with events one class is playing the role of a J frame. That is because it wants to be a window, and it is playing the role of action listener because it wants to listen to the events. ඒක ඔයාම කරන්නත් පුළුවන් වෙන ක්ලාස් එකකට කියන්නත් පුළුවන් නේද? එයාත් ඒකට කියන්න ඕන නෑ මම මේක listener කෙනෙක් කියලා. ඉතින් my action listener. So my action listener implements action listener. So that means you are playing like an action listener as well, so that someone can register you as the action listener. Right? So ඒක විනාඩියකින් මට explain කරන්න බෑ. So in the class I explain it in a great detail. Okay, great detail. Right. So that's it about object-oriented concepts. Right. So that's it about object-oriented concepts. Of course, I didn't cover everything. Right. Especially I didn't cover the interfaces right in detail because it will take a lot of time. Right. ඒව හදිසිය කරන්න බෑනේ. කරපුවාට පොඩ්ඩක් දැන් ටක් ගාලා මතක් වෙන්න ඕන. හරි. අපි ඔය පාවිච්චි කරපු තැන් ටික. Right. So that's it about object orientation. So then you have some other topics like exception handling, collection framework, database handling, right? Swing, Java, FX, right? Thread programming. So which I am not going to cover today. Or actually, I am not going to do any revision on that because those are big topic. That is why we had to take about 6 months to complete your semester 1 classes, right? But I hope you get some idea about, okay, let's look at the last year paper also, then we are going to stop it. Okay, I'm not going to do a lot of things because you need time for your preparations. Okay, right. So now here you can see we have a class. We have a class called my name. This is the instance variable. This is the constructor. This is a behavior instance method, and this is the end of the class. හරි ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉන්ඩෙන්ට් කරලා දෙන්නේ නැහැ. හරි ඔයාලට කට්ට කන්න කියලා. ලංකාවේ එහෙම නේද? ලංකාවේ නවකවාදයේ ඉඳලම කට්ටනේ කවන්නේ නේද? අධ්‍යාපනයේ ඉගෙන ගන්නකොට කියනවාද දුක් විඳලා ඉගෙන ගනිපි. ඒකන්ද මේක මෙහෙම කළා තමයි දෙන්නේ. මම දන්නේ ඇයි එහෙම කළා දෙන්නේ කියලා. ඔයාලට කට්ටක් දෙන්නේ. හරි. ලංකාවේ මිනිස්සුන්ට හරියට කටු දෙනවනේ. Right. So then we have another class called DP, which has a method, main method. You are just creating object and calling the behavior. Meet වැඩි lazy object oriented question එකක් හදන්න. සක්කරයටවත් බෑ. හරි. Body class object behavior call saving into the program folder and successfully compiling Java DP command. You can class run class name was issued. Select from among the following the outcome of the program execution. So this is going to be compiled. So the outcome is what? So you are creating object, right? When you are creating the object, this constructor is called, and here it is set into null. So therefore your name is not having any value. So here you are printing the name. So therefore still your name is null. So therefore it is going to print what? Null. Right? It is going to print null. Null set kala naha. Set kala naha. So objects are initialized to null. Remember objects නම් ඒක අනිවාර්යෙන් initialize null වලට. So let's double check the answer. බලමු answer හරියද කියලා 22 B. E uniform. කො බලන්න. 22E. කො බලන්න පෙළ වැරද්ද කියලා. error error එකක් ආවේ කොහොමද බලන්න. දැන් කොහෙද තියනවද කියලා error එකක් පේනවද කියලා. E කො බලන්න. anyone can see the error? බලන්න අස්සක තියනවද කියලා error එකක්. Class my name string name my name is the constructor fine name equal null that is also fine void show instance method system out println name that is also fine public static void main my name ob.show. Anyone can see the error? I don't see any error. What error එකක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. package එක තියනවද? package එක තියෙද්දි අපි package name එකත් එක්ක තමයි run කරන්න ඕන. සමහරට ඒක දන්නේ නැහැ. Maybe that is the only reason. මේ copy කරමු බලන්න අතට. Maybe the package name, okay? Say my class is my name file එක save කරලා තියෙන්නේ public class එකේ නම save කරනවා dp, okay? dp. Let's create a class called dp. New Java class dp. So now I can paste because it's a public class. My public class is dp. Public class එකේ dp යන දවලක් නෑ. හැබැයි මේ error එකක් නෑ. compiler එකක් මට පේන්නේ නැත. අපි run කළත් බලමු. null. එනවා output එක null නෙමෙයි කියන එකම හේතුව වෙන්න ඕන because of this package. මේක මොකද null කියලා ඉන්න එපා නේද output එක. හරි. So we got the null. So the only reason that your examiner may say that it is error may be because of this package. Right? Command line එක run කරන්න. So that must be the only reason why the examiner says answer must be, where is my paper? Answer must be error rather than null. ඒකත් එහෙමනම් මම දැන් හරියට කියලාත් නෑ මොන error එකද කියලා නේද? Yeah, maybe that is the only reason. Otherwise you can see that I just run it and show you it is giving you as a null. Okay, so maybe because of this package, right? Package එක තියෙනකොට අර මේක run කරන්න ඕන my data dot dp කියලා මෙතන. හරි? command line එකේ. So that might be the only reason for examiner to go for error. Okay, right? Other question. This is interface related question. Consider the following segment of code written in Java programming language with major syntactic errors. Right? Error එකක් තියෙනවලු. බලන්න මොකක්ද තියෙන error එක කියලා. Remember, if it is an interface, you can have only non-implemented methods. And if you are implementing an interface, you have to implement all the methods. So otherwise, you have to mark it as abstract class. Okay? බලන්න මේක error එකක් තියෙනවා මොකක්ද කියලා. Class B. So this is actually in the class you have interface. So that is called nested classes, nested interfaces. We did that. මම ඒක කව කරේ නෑ මෙතන මොකද ඒක කව කරන්න බෑනේ. පැය දෙකකින්. හරි. So you have the topic called inner and nested classes, that is after packages, right? So ඒක ඕක කරලා තියන්නේ. ඒකේ ඔටික් කරලා තියන්නේ. කොහොමද error එකක් තියෙනවද කියලා එවුනාට. Right, so this is this interface is inside this class. It's an inner interface, okay? And the interface says is not negative. That is fine, okay? It's not negative. And that class has nothing else. A class එක වෙන මොකුත් නැහැ. right? So then it says class B implements my interface because this interface is inside the class. This interface is inside the class. You may not be able to implement like that. You have to say A කියලා කියන්න වෙනවා නේද? Select from among the following the code which account for the major syntactic error. So I think the issue must be here because you can't write this as something like this because this interface is inside class A. It looks like we are going to get that error here, right? Implements කියලා කැලෙන් තමයි ඉන්න ඕන මට තේරෙන විදියට. හරි බලමු. මොකද මේක ඉන ක්ලාස් එක ඇතුලේ තියෙන්නේ. ක්ලාස් එක ඇතුලේ තියෙනකොට මෙහෙම link refer කරන්න බෑ. Because class B is outside the class A. Okay, let's see. Implement කරපු දැන් තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ එනවා. Because my interface is inside your class A. එයා ඉන්නේ class A එක ඇතුලේ. හරි. එයා ඉන්නේ class A එක. Control A format කරමු. Reformat. Now you can clearly see that the error is here. Right? So let's see if the answer is correct. 23 D when on 23. Yes, D. Is inside that? Yes, you can do it. If your class B is inside class A, class B must either be declared abstract or implemented abstract. Okay, then hari then method එක implement කරාම හරියයි යා. මොකද මේ method එක implement කරන්න බෑ. If you are implementing interface, you have to implement that method. False or something. Yes, you can refer to that interface only inside class A because this interface is a inner interface. Okay, inner interface එක refer කරන්න පුළුවන් එයාගේ class එක ඇතුලේ තියෙන class එකකට විතරයි. හරි? Right. It's anyway, it's a very advanced thing, very rarely used concept, but anyway, the examiner has even asked that. Okay, file related methods, file handling. Okay, file handling. So this is also file handling. This is a thread programming, right? Thread programming we have done. So thread programming I can't make about the output again. Remember? So this is a class thread1. Static and it extends thread class. This one also thread class. So now we have two thread classes. Remember, when you are creating a thread objects, you have to call the start method, right? So you have to override the run method and call the start method. So then they will be they will be executed in threads, separate threads. So when they are executed in threads, there is no guarantee of how it is going to be executed. Thread scheduler will try to give opportunities to both this one, and this is also your main method is also a thread, right? Your main method is also a thread. So therefore, what is the output? Select from one the following similar method as start. Now start start method එක වගේ තියෙන අනිත් methods මොනවාද කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ thread class එකේ තියෙන අනිත් methods ටිකයි ඔය අහලා තියෙන්නේ. හරි? ඒක අපි class එකේ කරා. හරි? Output එක තමයි interesting වෙන්නේ. What would be the output of the program when the program executes several times? So this is your, where is your main method? Main method. You are calling the start method of the thread 1 and start method of the thread 2. And this is the thread 1. This is thread 2. So therefore, you can have something like A, B, and 1, 2. You can have A1 and B2, right? Even it can be BA. Sorry, BA when the back, but 8% B in, or it can be 1A, right? 1A and 2B. 1 2 AB. Yes. You can ඉස්සෙල්ලා මේක වෙලා ඊට පස්සේ මේක රන් වෙලා තියෙන. එහෙම වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. මෙයාගේ thread එකට ඉස්සෙල්ලා chance එක දීලා. AB12, yes, it can be. ඉස්සෙල්ලා මේක රන් වෙලා ඊට පස්සේ මේක රන් වෙලා. Yes, can be. A1. Sorry?
Only AB and AB12 has come, sir. I tried in the coding. So AB came, sir.
Okay, that is because of your environmental things. Because your thread scheduler has now If this is a big task, only you will see that complications or the combinations. That is because of your operating system. When it gives the one opportunity, it do the entire thing. Okay, but if you have hundreds of things, you write a loop here, 1 to 100, 1 to 1000, here also 1 to 1000, then only you are going to see that mixing. You don't see that mixing because it's a very small task. When a opportunity is given to this thread, it finishes. When opportunity is given to this thread, it finishes. But theoretically, after this is done, maybe this is done, then this is done, this is done. Or maybe this is done first, then this is done, this is done, this is done. So therefore, it is, yes, if I run also, I might be getting only those two. But theoretically, any combination is possible. Any combination is possible in a particular computer, which is very busy. Okay, so therefore, yes, you may get only AB and 1, 2 and 1, 2 and AB, but theoretically, after A, there might be 1, then B, then 2, or after 1, there is A, then 2 and B, or after 1, A, B and 2. All these are valid. All these are valid. Okay, I hope you got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then A1, B2 is possible, right? A1, B2 is possible. So that is also possible. 1, A, B2. Yes, 1, then A, B, and 2. That is also possible. Right? That is also possible. But there's no such answer here, but this is not possible. For example, you can't say B, A, and 1, 2. No, that can't happen because when you execute, you can't, it won't be executed from bottom to top. Right? So A, B, 1, 2 is possible. A, 1, 2, B is possible. Right? 1, A, B, 2 is possible. Right? 1, A, 2B is possible, but never 1B, 2A is, no, that is not possible because always after 1, 2, after A, B. Okay, so in this case, I think E may not be the case unless you have environmental issues. So A, B, C, D are all possible theoretically. Okay, let's see the answer 30. Yes, A, B, C, D are possible. Then it's a swing code, but though it's a swing code, it's a very simple swing code. They just check whether you know these objects like J label, J button, etc. Okay, right. So we are not going to do those things, right? So you have to do your self studies for the other stuff, the swing UI and other things, right? So we'll stop at this point because you need a lot of time for your studies because the exams is in 2 or 3 days. Okay, right. So I hope you get some sort of a understanding, quick revision. Okay, so we'll stop at this point. Right. Thank you.